My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, consumer on assignment, okay? These are demons that are monitoring. So parking is under the fake sun with knowledge of what I'm doing on my device. That's demon possession, that's mental illness, that's a vagina monitor, co-conspirator, murder. You know everything about them while they're in the specific environment, okay? Starbucks is the identification of criminal facilitation. Starbucks has a fake sun after 7 p.m. Starbucks is a prosecuted business, okay? This is exposing the government. It's exposing mental illness. It's exposing demon possession. Demon possession is synonymous with mental illness. Psychopathic, antisocial, delusional. okay? Identified through 8DES219, driving under a fake sun, acting like this is normal. They're all engaging in mentally ill behavior together, and their focus is actually another person. That's called crossing path. It's light activity. It's malicious conduct in furtherance of murder as a population shares it. 9VRD576 is a demon that's not going to cause the bus bench to vibrate, that's not driving under the sun that's outside of the window of the hotel at Ontario Airport Inn, where that's supposedly sunlight inside of that hotel. What is it that they're walking in? What is she vacuuming in? These are the demons that are gang stalking as a society of mentally ill people. And they are demon possessed. You're not dealing with normal people. You're dealing with what is a behavioral health concern that affects a whole population. While you look at them stalking with impossible light, walking in it, this is a demon. They're all demons, and this is psychopathic pacing. And I'm going to give you as well, they're walking in it. They're mentally ill, okay? While they have multiple shadows, walking in that which is scientifically impossible, which is not the reflection of the sun, the demon possessed over and under the age of majority, sharing in public corruption, sharing in sexual violence, vagina monitors under the age of majority, engaging in homosexual violence, doing so with the government that facilitates it, doing so as a corrupt and mentally ill population. This is the daytime version of stalking with impossible light that you see them focusing on me, stalking while I'm outside at a bus stop. It doesn't get any more blatantly mentally ill than that. You come outside to stalk me while I've already prosecuted you and humiliated you on the internet. And you is a reference to Satan, because this is all of Satan's minions together being prosecuted for gang stalking, which is demonic activity, audible activity, light activity, relevant positioning. The demon possessed are engaged in this, and they're stalking all together. They do so while they're in custody of minor children that pose a threat to the public. They do so while they are of immigrant status, which is a threat to this country and the public, and they're a threat to themselves. The entity is engaging in this conduct on behalf of the state. Mike LORENZ, Michael GERKEN, Alan D. WAPNER, Ontario International Airport, Otif El Kadi. The demons that are going to be subject to the exact same laws: deportation, federal prison, prosecution as a domestic terrorist, removal from the positions in society where they pose a threat, including to the demons that they're gang stalking with. Psychopaths. CWX8913, Arizona. Smiling from ear to ear, gang stalking. And the demon possessed Satan supposes, the corrupt government presupposes that if you see a smile, if they don't regard you, then you'll never believe that this system is real. The fake sun is real, and so is that federal prosecution, so is that tangible evidence. That's the mental illness of a psychopath. Bigger picture, the entity has the fake sun over me while I am on the parking lot side of this same building, November 25th, 2025, after 1 p.m. And who was stalking? The Ontario International Airport that's being shut down, gang stalking with the people, demons. Serial stalker, license ISH4X4, they'll be prosecuted. The whole body of evidence is going to be analyzed, okay? Serial stalking by population, also serial stalking by the gang stalkers themselves while they conspire murder. All they do is go inside of the OVITT Family Community Library and stalk with noise, stalk and engineer light on behalf of the state. And this is where they've already been exposed, mental illness, okay? So understand that. This demon that engaged in what is parking does so with knowledge and in anticipation of what I'm about to do on my phone. That knowledge you already know based on the fake sun. It's still here in the same position over me while I'm at the parking lot side of 536 North Euclid Avenue on November 25th before I checked into Ontario Airport Inn. This is P.O.C. A population that is stalking together is a population in need of martial law. A population that is stalking together maliciously and engaging in what is a system designed to defame a target individual that they have conspired to murder is one that is a threat to the public and to national security. It's operating businesses, all right? It's feigning belief in Christ Jesus. It's running government operations. It's engaging in murder using airports and gang stalking airlines like UPS, Delta Airlines. This is the pattern of conduct. It is currently 8:51 a.m. where the natural environment would exclude that the sun is ever in any other location, city, or state while it's over me at this same venue after 1 p.m. where that is an identification of a demon. That's the one that engaged in battery. That's not a coincidence. She's going to prison and she knows it. That's the one that engaged in battery at the Ontario Veterinary Center. That's not a coincidence. These are the mentally ill that admit to targeting. That's the foolish conduct that I've documented for years. Mike LORENZ is going to prison, Tracy Banks is going to prison, Jason Fields are going to prison. There's a whole laundry list of those that engage in that. And Mike LORENZ is going to prison for that appetite to facilitate violence by his co-defendants who are putting him in prison. That's how gang stalking is working to put the terrorist leaders like Mike LORENZ away. P.O.C. All right, that's the Chucky doll.
that's engaged in what is violence, battery, as a feces consumer who's hostile because she's being documented, stalking with light just like they were, where they had those multiple shadows in the engineer light. This is the daytime version of it, stalking under a fake sun. They sound sirens. They sit up and call themselves firefighters and police officers. They are nothing like that. They're feces consumers, and they're being removed from position. And so is Paul Leon. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:52 a.m. Criminal summoning is a federal offense, and they're doing so while the fake sun is over me in the same position at this venue, November 25th, 2025. P.O.C. That's Ontario Fire, crossing path. All right, the Ontario Police Department stalking by helicopter does the same thing at nightfall with a demon on a bike with the light, stalking in the path inside of 527 Euclid Avenue. Doing so, engineer light is all over the business. This is the entity that's gang stalking. They're mentally ill. Michael GERKEN is mentally ill. He's a vagina monitor. Michael LORENZ is mentally ill. He's a vagina monitor. And they solicit violence by the puppets who are programmed. These are bots. These are demon-possessed people. Okay, that's what the uninformed refer to them as. They're demon-possessed. Okay, they're already under control. They've engaged in targeting me, and I'm not here because I'm going to be a victim. I'm here because I'm exposing Satan. And Satan is operating corrupt government practices. Satan is going to be prosecuted for terrorism in the United States. You'll see that same criminal cooperation by the Ontario Police that uses the demon-possessed to stalk with light at nightfall. What is that? Impossible light, just like that demon on a bike. It's impossible light activity. The demon at nightfall on a bike with a spotlight while the entity is stalked by helicopter. Impossible light activity. It's not headlights at night. It's not the light of the demon that has a light fixture on their bicycle. It's engineer light. They're all stalking with impossible light activity. They're all demons, a population of them. That's called criminal facilitation. The entity does the same thing with the airport. The entity does the same thing with the police department. 7WYC 710. They're all co-conspirators of murder. That's why Michael LORENZ is going to prison. That's why the airport's being shut down. The government solicits your murder and does so for profit. Ask Tracy Banks with regard to a fake conservatorship. This demon could not talk poorly again about a toilet seat that is full of covered in her feces, let alone defaming my character when she can't even spell the terms. She cannot spell it. Okay? This is P.O.C. It is currently again 8:54 a.m. This is Exhibit A for Michael LORENZ that is pleading for federal prison, and that's what he's getting. All right? Defendant engaging in what is gang stalking under the fake sun. That's crossing path in the paper plate, the rental that she's gang stalking in, where she engaged in battery with that agency, the mentally ill that are stalking in helicopters. And they're doing so as demons that are hostile. This is what the population has been doing while they've been stalking me at a bus stop. They're doing so while AMR is stalking with light activity. This is what the mentally ill doing. They're actually monitoring. This is demonic behavior. And with regard to the behavioral health concern, 9B ZS 533 is subject to federal prison. K478G1 federal prison. 8CEB 425 federal prison. You already know everybody inside of Starbucks are going to prison for kidnapping at 7:15 in the morning, where the fake sun is outside of this window on July 4, 2025, where L. Edwards, who is gang stalking with that agency that's stalking under a fake sun at what will be 9:56 a.m. daylight savings time. It's 8:56 a.m. right now, and does so because they lack self-control while they're exposed as vagina monitors, delusional psychopaths who gang stalk you and they just don't talk to you. They sound sirens. They stalk you in fire trucks. They're mentally ill demons under a fake sun. It's humiliating. The demon-possessed that stalk with impossible light, doing so in fire trucks, are exhibiting their incompetence, their corruption, their demon possession, which is what you need to deduce from it, but also the fact that they lack the control to control the violence that will be revealed and exposed and unleashed on American citizens that are unsuspecting, unaware regarding the demon possessed that are engaged in the system, such as gang stalking. That's what's relevant behind stalking in a helicopter. Michael LORENZ is pleading for prison. He's already accomplished that. He's going to prison for the hundreds and thousands of people that are gang stalking me along with him, including the gang stalking fire department, including the gang stalking ambulance, EMTs, demons, mentally unfit, have no business even in that position. It's going to be handled in the prosecution of the state. All right? This is P.O.C. The roads and the highways of surveillance. That's why the fake sun is over me at this Chevron at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where gang stalking immigrants are making false allegations about theft because they're hostile to the documentation that they're keeping under surveillance, while that same agency that they're gang stalking me with, subjecting them to inevitable deportation, is over me, and they're stalking in helicopter together. This is all the evidence that is already exposing them. The mentally ill are those that are psychopathic and highly enraged, and they engage in more violence. This is the population that's going to engage in more and more violent acts of terrorism. P.O.C. License plate 9RD0076. This is all crossing path, light activity, relevant positioning, monitoring, federal stalking, 9DUJ276. Not only are they not under the sun, they're stalking with the government that just flew over by helicopter, stalking. Normalized terrorism in the U.S., which is serving for disbanding martial law, federal prison, okay? But the entities engaging in this while sunlight does not reflect off of your vehicle on the black asphalt, and it's not even the sun. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that is gang stalking on behalf of Mike Lorenz. Okay, and on the opposite side of this parking lot, where the demons inside of the OVITT Family Community Library maintain surveillance, this vagina monitoring population maintains presence inside of a library where none of them read. Light slingers, feces consumers are not reading, they're stalking with the psychopaths that use helicopters to prove that they're stalking with them. They're maintaining a fake sun 8 hours from now. Okay, that's how you are understanding shared mental illness. The entity that engages in violence on behalf of that agency, the demon that's driving around stalking in the rental car with the paper plates, they're going to prison. That includes the demons kidnapping with that agency that is stalking mentally ill behavior. This is serving for what is already established, prosecution for domestic terrorism. You need to know that the demon possessed, that is the mentally ill, that give birth to children who are mentally ill. They engage in corrupt business practices amongst the mentally ill. They maintain what are positions that are a threat to the public, such as operating fire trucks, fire stations, ambulances, engaging in what is public corruption, 6YLX594, sexual violence, including while they give birth to children in doing so, and they include their children. This is the pattern of conduct, okay? Deportation is absolutely necessary. Martial law is absolutely necessary regarding the violence that the demon possessed, which is synonymous with the mentally ill. Their mental illness is one that is inspiring violence, that is inspiring targeting, psychopathic and antisocial behavior that is a threat to themselves and other people. And they don't need a reason. They're demons. P.O.C. It is currently 9 a.m. The fake sun is outside of the drive-through window of Starbucks at 7 p.m. The fake sun is over this building while I'm standing right here, while a population of demons, including Omnitrans, going out of its way to gang stalk. The employees are subject to federal prison as well. They're engaged in this pattern of conduct under what is a fake sun. That's a population sharing severe mental illness. Severe. P.O.C. P.O.C. Alrighty? That's the entity that's gang stalking. The Ontario police are still gang stalking after that helicopter flies over. The helicopter conduct is an outward demonstration of the lack of self-control. P.O.C. It is currently 9 a.m. Alrighty, more criminal summoning. It's 9:12 a.m. License 8 Sam, Bob Frank 551, 9 Mary Zebra Nancy 040. And the demons that are engaged in surveillance, that are mentally ill, that are not firefighters, are engaged in gang stalking with that police department that flew over my head at the intersection where the fake sun is present at the Ontario Airport Inn. During this hour, yesterday, the gang stalking housekeeper is outside of my door using the vacuum, amplified in volume, as I'm using my device to upload evidence about the gang stalking entity that has failed in secretly trying to murder somebody and defame that person and steal from them. That's what the demon-possessed gang stalking Ontario Fire Department is doing under a fake sun that is not outside of that back window facing the 10 freeway at Archibald Avenue, and it's not going to be while this population of demons, 9RPY343, share in that criminal conspiracy to murder while they're all gang stalking together. While they exhibit mental illness like light activity, moving in the air, moving across the trees that they're driving by while they're all stalking. They have children in their custody. Those children are at risk, not only because they're being trained to engage in terrorism like in Afghanistan, okay? They're being trained in third world countries in the United States to engage in psychological torture, sexual violence, demonic behaviors designed to target another that they are keeping under surveillance. Very easy for children to participate also with communication devices. They're doing so as a population that has sex with these children as well, the demon-possessed, the pedophiles, this demonic system, the demon-possessed that rely on sexual activity with kids, like license 7WZK751, a gang-stalking sex offender offender, okay? Sex traffickers, pedophiles that are gang stalking and call themselves police officers and firefighters. They're engaged in the pattern of conduct, and they're doing so at what is 9:12 a.m. as I'm uploading the evidence onto the Google Drive, which you will be able to look at your leisure. Everything that I documented at the Ontario Airport Inn, 1801 East G Street, is not occurring at East Street and Euclid Avenue, where gang stalking immigrants like German at 506 North Euclid Avenue, the Chevron, that has hairy, moldy grapes, and supposedly I'm stealing from them. This is the same entity that has stolen my money, stolen my identity, is engaged in stalking me while I'm sleeping outside. That's how obsessed with me you are. And then you fly over and stalk me with fire trucks and helicopters because you're embarrassed and humiliated, which is letting you know, because we're beyond proving that the government is engaging in surveillance and is demon-possessed, that is mentally ill. This is letting you know about the absence, the inability to refrain from violence against the public, so that you are not caught off guard, so that you are not ignorant about the enemy's devices, and the enemy is invisible. It's a spirit, and they're demon-possessed. They lack self-control to even act like they're not stalking me. They lack self-control to even act like they're not feces consumers. Stalking with impossible light activity that's flying about, that's speaking to their Looney Tune mindset. The impossible light activity, the fake sun, a population that is under stalking one person, mentally ill, sounding your sirens while the evidence is still going on the internet. You're delusional and you're mentally ill based on that criminal conduct by a whole fire department. That's again sounding their sirens under that same fake sun over the same person in an entirely different location while that person is using their internet, exposing, not coincidentally, their criminal activity. Criminal summoning. It's an act of surveillance, not speaking to the ignorance of LAPD that ran over that young man in the middle of the street. It doesn't matter where he was at. If he was on the sidewalk, LAPD is equally engaged in premeditated murder. They're monitoring as they use their sirens. It's light activity, audible activity, relevant positioning pursuant to detailed knowledge about who you are and what you're doing, including on the internet, including your routine habits, where you go, what time you get off work, how you ride your skateboard across the street at a specific location intersection, sounding their sirens while they are keeping you under surveillance. There are no accidents amongst the gang stalking minions of the state of California. That includes LAPD and the Ontario Fire Department and the Ontario Police Department. Understand that. While the entity is gang stalking in Ontario, you are aware of the demon-possessed that are gang stalking me and failed and doing it secretly. Now they are openly exposing to you, this is what you're paying attention to. They are indeed psychopathic. They are indeed serial killers. They are indeed engaged in organized criminal activity that the government facilitates. The government's not investigating anything. The government is a part of the crime. Mike Lorenz is engaged in what is battery that I documented on video by proxy. The proxy is going to prison, and so is he. Okay? He's not getting any of my money. He's been paid to. A criminal motivation and incentive. He's going to prison for that. They're terrorists while they're stalking as an agency, and they're terrorists while they facilitate such targeting by the population, i.e. the gang stalking businesses, the gang stalking population, the gang stalking families that are all demon possessed. This is what you need to understand. They're demons. P.O.C. That's what's behind the entity sounding sirens again at East Street and Euclid. The sun is not going to be outside. Look at the evidence because it's already there. First of all, the fake sun is here over me at Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue at 1 p.m. November 2nd, 2025. I document this on a routine basis, on an ongoing basis. They're in the environment targeting. This is the entity that has a fake sun outside of the window of the 10 freeway where the Ontario Airport Inn is. That's not over these demons' vehicles that are stalking me. How psychopathic and sick and deranged are you? And you should not be engaged in having any custody of children, and you will not. They're a threat to the children that they're gang stalking with. They're a threat to the children that they give birth to. Those children, by the way, are demon-possessed. That is mentally ill. They're little activity creators, and they do know what they are doing. That doesn't mean they know how to spell Constitution either. Their parents don't know how to spell Constitution, and neither do the gang-stalking children, the demon-possessed children. What they do know that they are doing, which is a threat to you that you need to be aware of. They know the significance of running all around and laughing and giggling. Ha ha ha. It's not innocence. It's activity creation. They're monitoring you. Their demon-possessed children are monitoring you. The demon-possessed children are keeping your genitalia under surveillance. That's amplified audible activity by a pedophile. They have sex with kids in the same way that they amplify audible activity when you expose their criminal conduct. That's the entity that did the same thing with the helicopter moments ago. Amplified audible activity. It's all under a fake sun. This is all about me. They're all stalking. That is what is a threat while it gives birth to mentally ill children that target American citizens. They come to this country as immigrants, giving birth to children, targeting American citizens, and they do so with terrorist leaders like Michael GERKEN, Mike LORENZ, Alan D. WAPNER. Okay? The entities engaging in this, and they're doing it when their secrets are exposed. That is informing you about the lawlessness, about desperation, about extreme severity regarding a threat to national security, not spreading fear. That is not of the Lord. You need to be informed, though. That's what these losers are telling you. Satan is showing you his true colors. You need to pay attention. They lost a long time ago. They know they're going to prison. They know that they're being going to be treated as terrorists with martial law. They know it. These demons practice witchcraft. This is why they targeted me. Because they know about my spiritual ability. They know, that, in other words, that I can call a demon out. And not only that, the Lord God has prepared me and given me an ability, a skill set that I can prove with the physical what they're doing and who they are in the spiritual. That's a gift. The demon-possessed that are worshiping me, that is stalking and targeting, they already knew that. That's how you have, why would a police chief, why would that agency be targeting? They're demons. That's where you're starting from. The impossible light activity, they're demons. The fake sun, they're demons. The amplified audible activity, they're demons. You sounding your sirens coincidentally as I begin uploading? No, they're demons. And the demon-possessed are engaging in surveillance on the internet, and it includes both the use of technology and demonic activity, supernatural, things like engineered light, which is informing you about mental illness as it is manifest before you. There's a whole manner of federal legislation that trickles out of this. Loss of custody of children, deportation of immigrants, federal prison for kidnappers, criminally summoning, etc. Criminal defamation, how the entity accomplishes kidnapping, you're going to prison for any of that. It reasonably results in defamation, which is how the entity is engaging what is taking your liberty against your will, while they're engaging in what is this public corruption, the system of public. You're going to prison for that. You like to engage in violence like Mike LORENZ does, the Ontario police do, through demons that rent cars and paper plates, stalking you with impossible light. And then those idiots do it under the fake sun, which is no coincidence, because they're desperate, because I'm capturing damning, indicting evidence, and you engage in what is an admission in court that you're targeting. That's no coincidence. And then moments later, you're flying over me, stalking, targeting in that environment by helicopter, because I made a point that they do the same thing that the demons of the Ontario Fire Department do, stalking on a bike. That's relevant to targeting me as I'm on the sidewalk, while the demons are targeting on the street, on the roads and the highways, while they're stalking using a fire truck. Surrounding is what that is. As I point that out, the Ontario police do the same thing. What are those demons that lack any strategy, lack self-control? That's what you're deducing. This is what you're paying attention to. You're analyzing Satan. Satan has already been exposed. You are analyzing him. You're paying attention to the enemy. He's showing you that he has no self-control. He's showing you that he focuses in on some teeny tiny little, as far as you're concerned, as far as prison and not getting out, that's a small little detail, and you couldn't control that? You had to bust out a helicopter? Those are the serial killers. They murder. They murder for much less. That's what that's about, though. The demon-possessed are triggered, and the Ontario police are stalking routinely by helicopter, as they are demons stalking under a fake sun, and they do so while they are triggered by the truth that I speak as I reveal their criminal conduct. To engage in more criminal conduct, especially with regard to tangible evidence that is submitted in a federal tribunal to prosecute you based on allegations that are proven thereby, you are serving what are my purposes. These are spiritually and intellectually and in every regard mentally inferior creatures. They're demons. They're not people. They're demons. That's why they lost so badly. You are at the point where you are analyzing Satan. Do not be ignorant about what is terrorism that is going to increase in this country, while you're being told it was an inexplicable accident. It was a tragedy that we have to investigate. We're waiting for them to look into the details to explain what must have happened. They're the demon-possessed. They don't have acts of negligence. They're monitoring your genitalia. There's no accidents. They're not ignorant. And you are not engaging in any assumption of risk when you are riding your skateboard in the middle of the street and the entity is maintaining surveillance. They know exactly where you are. You are perfectly safe in the street. If they were not targeting what is taking your life, you're perfectly safe because they're demons that know where you're at. Okay? The assumption of the risk is relevant to what is tortious doctrine. You're engaging in what is reasonably a threat to your own self, while you would like to perhaps enforce your rights for some tortfeasor that's presenting an unreasonable threat to you, that's going to harm you, that's going to violate your rights in some way. That's not what you have with the entity that is demon-possessed, that is monitoring. Because of the supernatural features, stalking you under a fake sun, stalking you with impossible light, maintaining detailed surveillance as a whole population, they know exactly where you're at. It's premeditated murder. And the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario International Airport are teaching you about the murder that the Los Angeles Police Department committed. And by the way, it's the same entity. And by the way, I documented, I've already prosecuted the Los Angeles Police Department. Stalking me at Alvarado Gardens. It's already there for you to look at. It's already there. I've provided you all the information. This is more than a warning. It's a comprehensive body, a repository of information. Not just information, not unsubstantiated conspiracy theories. Because the demon-possessed are mentally ill, and they are controlled by Satan. And when Satan says, go, that's what they do. That's what they do. They crash planes, they blow up buildings, they shoot mass amounts of people, they go rogue, going from being a law-abiding citizen with a police department that has no track record of corruption to just pulling out a gun and shooting up masses of people. Those are the demon-possessed that are sleepers, targeting. And LAPD is engaging in what is terrorism, not an accidental act of what has taken the life of an American citizen that they didn't know was there. They're monitoring demons. They commit premeditated murder and just flip on their sirens. Ontario Police, vehicle 11115, 1680789, gang stalking under the fake sun with the demon-possessed people of the state, stalk with the possible light. Those demons are, they're tag teaming, monitoring together. P.O.C, and it's currently, that's a female operating that vehicle. She's eating while she's crossing path. She has dark hair. It's back in a bun, a low bun. It's 9:26 a.m. She's gang stalking and furtherance of murder. That's federal prison, okay? This is terrorism. Understand, I am one that has survived it. I am one that was not supposed to. You are not avoiding federal prison. You're going to prison because I'm giving voice to what they do to other people who are already dead, which mandates federal prison. Understand that, okay? This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:26 a.m. Those demons that are engaging in criminal summoning, this is how you are understanding what is underway as I'm exposing to you, speaking to what are real-time events that are going on. This is, and I'm referring to again, I'm going to refer to it again. This is why I continuously speak on it, because the criminal summoning is not just the demons that turn on their sirens. License GTAHXNN is engaged in criminal summoning together. So when LAPD is driving in the middle of the street and hits a young man that's on a skateboard, whether he's a third-party gang-stalking demon or not, and he is, the city of Los Angeles full of demons. But these demons are killing each other. This is what you're picking up from this, and it's not an accident. That's what you're picking up from this, okay? I'm not going to mince words. They are murdering each other, but it doesn't, you're talking about the propriety of the government. We're prosecuting the state now. The entities engaged in what is murder, the people of the state are monitoring while those sirens sound. So the entity that's, if you look at the video online, LAPD hits this young man that's on a skateboard. You can hear the onlookers. Those are third parties. They're the demon-possessed people of the state. They're monitoring together while they sound their sirens. Okay? They're monitoring together. They're monitoring a specific person. They're targeting a specific person. These are demons that don't have a meeting in the morning. Okay, we're going to do this, and then you're going to be driving here. You're going to park in the parking lot. You're going to be in the drive-thru at Starbucks, and then you're going to pull up, and then you're going to fill up your gas tank and stalk at the gas stall across. That's not what they're doing. They're demons. They are of one mind. This is spiritual. And how are you able to understand that and deduce that I'm telling you the truth and this is not things that you got to be sketchy about? And I'm not sure about that because of the fake sun documentation, because of the supernatural, impossible light activity that I've shown you, which is a part of the pattern of conduct. It is always present. That's how you know that that's exactly what's going on. These are demonic spirits that murder people. Criminal summoning is an act of the government that's engaged in what is public corruption by definition. You're engaged in criminal summoning and it's murder committed by all those demons together. LAPD sounds their sirens. The people of the state, the demons that are in that neighborhood, well, all of them, but the collision happens at a specific location. They're all of that same condition. They're all sharing in that targeted act. When you're engaged in surveillance, there are no accidents. It's targeting. It's called a sacrifice amongst the demon-possessed. Just so that you know that, okay? So the entities engaging in that, the people of the state are engaged in criminal summoning together. That's relevant to the demons that are stalking using fire trucks and ambulances and police vehicles. The demons that are stalking as a whole airport, severely mentally ill, crashing into what is The people that are in Kentucky, that wasn't an accident. Look at the video, you can see the fake sunset. How do you know it's a fake sunset? I've been documenting for years an entity stalking me under a fake sun exhibiting severe mental illness. You're talking about a population. Not only are they mentally ill, the children that they give birth to are demons and they're mentally ill. I've documented psychopathic pacing by minors. I've documented stalking with activity. The demon possessed, they're minor children, which they use them more as I document those demons call themselves responding. They're psychopaths. By gang stalking me more with their children. They're losing custody of their children. They're being deported by their children. You're gang stalking children, you're not a natural, you're being deported. It is more of an urgency to deport them and their demonic children that are terrorizing American citizens. Fully engaged in the conspiracy to murder. The government is engaged in what is the ongoing contribution to the delinquency of minors who are demon possessed, who are mentally ill. It is of this demonic spirit. The mentally ill are procreating. The Nephilim, they're procreating. I just want to be clear, the entity is engaging in what is targeting. That's shared by the people of the state who engage in targeted acts. No accidents under the fake sun. LAPD is already surrounded with evidence. Robert Luna, Dominic Choi, Michael Moore, and the demon that took over after Dominic Choi is removed as the interim, which, again, this demon, Karen Bass, puts in position. They are engaged in surveillance. There's no accidental collision. Not when you're engaging in the surveillance system under the fake sun. They know exactly who you are, what you're doing. This is an illusion, and it's an unintelligent one. That's premeditated murder. And it's very malicious premeditated murder because the entity does it under the guise of it being an accident, under the guise of someone engaging in what is responding to an emergency. It doesn't get any more malicious than the government taking out American citizens with the people of the state, where they're engaging in what is criminal summoning. Look up the definition on my website. This is the P.O.C.wordpress.com, criminal summoning. Within a whole body of what is this, the way in which the demon-possessed are operating a corrupt system of surveillance. Federal stalking, Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. All right? All right, the entities engaging in this while they are, by the way, stalking, criminal summoning as I'm capturing a video. The entities stalking by helicopter, criminal summoning again as I upload onto the drive where they're monitoring. The demon-possessed are so mentally ill, they're obsessed with their demise. So until the day that they drop dead from the black magic and voodoo, that this population thought that it was a numbers game, that a whole bunch of demons that are tantamount to what are being mentally ill, spiritually retarded, okay, and they're engaging in what is a numbers game, as though it's a numerosity that's going to overwhelm the Holy Spirit, that's going to overwhelm the power of Christ Jesus. These are the demons that have engaged in what is suicidal conduct with regard to their spiritual attacks that are inferior to Christ Jesus, with regard to their even their acts of criminal defamation. They're inferior in every way because there is no gang violence. There is no amount of gossip that is going to overwhelm what is tangible evidence that you are stalking and targeting. And in court, it is legally irrelevant. They don't even know the definitions of these terms. They don't understand how this is going to operate in a courtroom because they're monitoring spirits. They murder people that don't even get a chance to contest or expose anything. And they defame them if they state it. And remember, who are they defaming? People that don't even have evidence. And these are feces consumers. The audacity. They consume feces. They heat it up. They tuck their napkin in their collar. And they grab their fork and their knife and they cut apart feces, nice and warm, and they eat it. That's what's gang stalking. That's what's stalking in fire trucks and in helicopters. That's what wants you to assume that they are a normal, healthy family because you've got mom and dad and 2.5 kids. They're demons. And they are cloaking themselves in what is the presentation of normalcy. That's Satan. And this is not some far off spiritual. And by the way, those that do not know Christ, the Lord knows who you are and you may very well become a believer. But this is a message that everybody is to pay attention to because it's about your safety. Yes, it is about the return of Christ Jesus. Yes, it is about demon possession. Very real. The reality of demon possession is speaking to the testimony of Christ Jesus, who is exposing Satan, by the way. There's only one God, one true and living God, and his name is Christ Jesus. Okay? His name is Christ Jesus. No demon is telling the secrets of the demon possessed. None of them. No demon is telling the secrets of the demon possessed. And it is all truth, not parts of the truth. All right? Not confusing the truth with the part of the lie. Okay? That's not Christ Jesus. 100% truth about what is going on amongst the demons that seek to deceive you They seek to deceive you. And what are they doing? They're nothing other than puppets of the enemy. So they want you to look at them as a police department. They want you to look at them as a legitimate business. They want you to look at them as a upright city of angels, as the demon possessed in Los Angeles. They're not lying to you. They're a city of dark angels, a city of demons, fully engaged in surveillance. Telling on San Bernardino County as San Bernardino County is telling on Los Angeles County. There's no accidents on the roads and the highways. They're monitoring spirits. They're monitoring genitalia. For them to engage in what is suicidal conduct, like gang stalking when your secret's been exposed, they do the same thing with regard to crashing and colliding into each other on the roads and the highways. They do the same thing to collect money at that. By the way, the demon-possessed that are working for insurance agencies are a part of that fraudulent system. Okay, while then the demon-possessed keeping themselves employed call themselves investigating, CHP, the police. They're gang stalkers. They're, in other words, monitoring spirits that lack self-control. This is why it's important for you to witness how the demons are triggered by what it is that I speak, the truth about them and what they're doing. Understand the prosecution is already done. They're going to prison and they know it. They can't control themselves while they're stalking me, still using helicopters. You're going to prosecute based on the ordinary American citizens' rights to not be subject to Baghdad treatment. We're not in Afghanistan, and you're not going to behave like you're going to drop bombs on an American citizen, especially while you are the criminal, okay, which is terrorism in the first place. And it's moreover terrorism that you are engaging in targeting with a whole population of equally mentally ill psychopaths, the people of the state that give birth to the mentally ill. They give birth to ongoing terrorists that are being trained up from day one. Demons. So if you're that ignorant, not only, and this is not name calling, but this is truth, it's a matter of what is ignorance, and ignorance can take your life. It's not a small thing, it's very vital. The entities engaged in this conduct while they are in an environment that is speaking to very specific means of targeting. By the way, it's 9:36 a.m. Recall where I'm at yesterday at Ontario Airport, and these demons are stalking on the roads and the highways, including businesses like Omnitrans, where the entities engage in what are the mentally ill driving public transportation, the mentally ill flying commercial planes, the mentally ill on the roads and the highways, the mentally ill that are operating police vehicles and fire trucks and ambulances, engaging in criminal conduct. The mentally ill are the demon-possessed that are engaging in what is gang stalking. Okay? Now, I've spoken to what is the specific type. That is psychopathic and antisocial, meaning a serial killer. They will take your life and then clean themselves up and walk out like it never happened, maintain a smile on their face, present as though it is something that they know nothing of. That's demon possession. That's mental illness. That's what you're dealing with regard to gang stalkers. That's that type of disorder. Okay, that's a spirit. It's a spirit. That's a spirit. That is the character that you're dealing with. So I just want to be clear. That's what's gang stalking. That's what's giving birth to kids. That's what's working in hospitals. That's what's calling itself a police department. That's what's stalking me in hell. Everybody knows that the entity is gang stalking me. The entity's engaged in a system whereby everybody that knows, including the federal judge, the federal court, all of you are mentally ill. Because that's what the feces consumers are claiming that you are. This is what they've done to ordinary target individuals. You're not mentally ill, neither is the federal court that's going to hand over justice that I am more than entitled to. But the feces consumers, those that have they have the audacity, okay? Another word that they can't even spell while they exercise it. Audacity to defame because the gang members claim altogether that you're imagining it. Okay? Yeah, that's the entity that's engaging in the system of gang stalking. We are not all imagining it together. Okay? Neither is the court, neither is this country that's going to exact justice. And that is speaking to laws that are going to serve to protect you and serve to protect what are your rights, your human and your constitutional rights. Terrorism is nothing that's being imagined. While an American citizen is being stalked by helicopters by the local police department that has engaged in what is publicly exposed targeting in furtherance of murder with a population sharing in mental illness, i.e. demon possession. License 16472 Frank 4, 7 Thomas George Zebra 455. The entities engaging in that pattern of conduct, and that's what you want to be aware of. You are analyzing the demons. We're well beyond proving. This is beyond that. Tracy Banks is a severely mentally ill psychopath, a hypersexual one. And the only reason why people are finding this demon, this elderly witch attractive is because she's utilizing witchcraft, by the way. No shade, it's just the truth. Because you cannot see the hideous creature that she is. While this is a Jezebel spirit. Okay? And you've had sex with a disgusting creature, by the way. The entity, but they're all disgusting creatures. They're engaging in procreating. This is a threat, literally, while the demon-possessed have children. But we are in the U.S., and you cannot reasonably or legitimately legislate over procreation. Okay? Except with regard to rape. And with regard to rape, I mean having sex with minor children and then getting them pregnant. Like, that's illegal conduct. But I mean, generally speaking, the government has no legitimate interest in legislating over procreation. We're not in China, okay? And even if it's the demon-possessed, this is something that you need to be aware of, in other words, based on where we're at, based on what is the reality. The demon-possessed are nothing to fear. Look at how pathetic they are. They sit around consuming feces. The mentally ill that can only successfully engage in what is defaming another person when that person doesn't have any evidence and when they're being outnumbered. Mentally ill, 9 Mary Sam Wendy 013. Psychopaths, license 8 Thomas Mary Paul 186. The same conduct, which is supernatural over and over again, a population of demons, and yes, they give birth to mentally ill people. They give birth to gang stalkers. This is the criminal system that's operating in the government. By the government, excuse me, in concert with the people. The people are not private citizens. The people are the demon-possessed out here gang stalking with the city police, which the Ontario Police Department have made itself abundantly clear, and that's why they want to be known as terrorists. That's exactly how they're going to be prosecuted in court and treated in court, and so are their co-defendants, the people of the state. This is necessitating martial law. Okay? It's P.O.C. It's currently 9:40 a.m. And the entities engaged in what is targeting while they are monitoring evidence that is going up on the internet. It's always going up on the internet. The entity has been engaged in targeting me while I've been documenting that is legally relevant regarding an impermissible threat by a co-conspirator of murder, someone that is conspiring your murder and is engaging in what is further criminal conduct, seeking to obstruct justice and stop you. And that criminal engaging in obstruction is the government itself. That is an act of terrorism. The government engaging in what is war tactics, psychological torture, including while a population is stalking you on its behalf. None of that is protected constitutional private speech. The people of the state are fully exposed and they're going to be prosecuted. The people of the state engage in criminal summoning, which is conduct not just by the demons that sound the sirens, they do so with the population that's surrounding you. License 5X Frank David 241. 7 Bob 62040. The entities engage in this when they engage in acts of violence, such as running someone over in the middle of the street and claiming that the sirens are providing a way of avoiding liability because of the emergency situations created by that entity that is engaging in surveillance that they have not revealed to the American public, which is also relevant to what is not any accident whatsoever. When you're engaging in surveillance as the government, outside of what is the consent, the constitutional right of violating that, it is reasonably foreseeable that people are going to be harmed and violated. Moreover, it's malicious. It's criminal surveillance that's committed in furtherance of murder to get away with murder, where you're ignorant of that surveillance and they can falsely depict everything that's happening amongst that system that's in operation. That is murder as well. The entities engaged in this, I just want to be clear, they're doing so while they are telling the secrets of their co-defendant, LAPD, because Robert Luna, Dominic Choi, Michael Moore, the current demon in LA, this entity's been engaged in targeting. Remember, it's the state of California, while Ontario police engage in what is knee-jerk violence that's documented on video to prosecute the entirety of that entity. They're one entity. They're one. They share the same pattern of conduct. That's why a fake sun is over my apartment, over my head, at my front door at Alvarado Gardens, while I'm showing you a fake sun rising and setting on Euclid Avenue and East Street, while it's also supposedly at Ontario Airport Inn. Remember the Ramada by Wyndham, while I'm staying at 1841 East Street, the adjacent property. This is the entity that's surrounded by evidence. Science is going to prosecute the demon-possessed that cannot be trusted as a jury. 4787 for Larry 3, gang stalker with the Ontario Fire Department at Chevron. That's going to be subject to prosecution, and the gang stalking immigrants that defame me by falsely and maliciously asserting that I have stolen their moldy, outdated food or anything, that I would steal anything. 15921D1, gang stalking by the fire department. The demons that are engaging in criminal summoning are engaging in surveillance, and they're mentally ill feces consumers. They're stalkers. They're not firefighters. And they go home to a household of demons. They marry demons. These are the Nephilim. They're telling you who they are. You need to pay attention. This is beyond proving. This is a message. This is what Satan was trying to stop me from telling you in the first place. This is a message. Okay? This is beyond me enforcing my rights. This is you learning the wiles of the devil. Do not be ignorant. They're engaging in terrorism. They're engaging in targeting. They're engaging in monitoring. Don't be ignorant about the slant that you're given on the news. Don't be ignorant about the ways in which the demons are targeting. Do not be surprised as they increasingly engage in acts of violence. Do not be surprised and do not be fearful. And if you do not know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, today is the day of salvation. Tomorrow is not promised. It is an act of mercy that you are being given a warning. This is not my message. This is not my idea. This is not my doing. I didn't ask the government to target me. And it's not any sort of, by the way, mental illness, because you're able to spiritually discern. Not only did I spiritually discern, but I proved it with tangible evidence. That is literally hard evidence of the absence of any imagining. Nobody's imagining this fake sun. We are all looking at it together. The entity's going to prison for kidnapping American citizens and abusing the law that they don't even have jurisdiction or authority under, because you're engaged in what is criminal surveillance. You don't have authority under the law to engage in surveillance, which the P.O.C. proves. You don't even have authority under the law that you're abusing to kidnap people. They're going to prison. P.O.C. Right, it's currently, like I stated, the entity engaging in criminal summoning while they are the mentally ill. They are, in fact, the mentally ill that are engaging in criminal conduct, which is serving for the demise of the people of the state. They're engaging in that on behalf of a population that's going to serve what are the federal consequences. That's deportation. That's loss of custody of minor children. That is federal prison. That is the entity that's being prosecuted as terrorists. Okay, that's affecting life at every level. You're not receiving government assistance. You're not going to be able to work in any area that you just want to. You're not going to get past a background check. You're not getting past the criminal check. It's never going to be the same. There are going to be many ways in which the demon possessed that are engaging in this conduct, that is the population in California. Yes, the entity that's engaging in this system of surveillance, being marked so that the public knows who they are. You can't just move away and start over and act like, oh, thank goodness, I dodged that bullet. Nobody knows that I was in California, a part of that surveillance system. That's not what's happening here. Okay, so the entities engaged in that, and the city of Ontario in particular is going to be gutted out. No airport, no fire department, no police department, because they are not that in the first place. They're co-conspirators of murder, and their disorganized system of targeting is fully exposed, as well as the shared mental illness by a whole population that they are targeting with. And by the way, they're engaging in that impunity, and the people that they rely on, they're going to prison. You're stalking with the airport, with the police, with the fire department, with the ambulance, sharing in criminal stuff, you're going to prison. Okay, and it's already documented. They're going to federal prison for these things. Alrighty, it is currently 9:46 a.m. This is literally where the entity housed the fake sun outside of the Ontario airport. And I will take a picture of that. License 9JZN008 is stalking with the airport that's maintaining serial flight. I'm in between ARCO and the CHEVRON at 506 North Euclid Avenue, 434 North Euclid Avenue, 507 North Euclid Avenue, the 437 North Euclid Avenue. This is the this is the East Street in Euclid. The fake sun is what is outside of the window of the Ontario Airport Inn, not the natural environment. Remember that window of that Ontario Airport Inn, where they are engaged in vagina monitoring on behalf of the Ontario police that are stalking me day and night in helicopters as an agency, using the resources of a city, of a municipality, of a police department, using the, you're talking about fiscally speaking, gassing up those police vehicles to engage in stalking, gassing up, those helicopters to engage in stalking, to engage in terrorism and psychological torture. It costs money. And this is, again, removal of Paul Leon, removal of Mike Lorenz. He's going to prison. The entity's engaged in kidnapping, which Michael GERKEN has been engaged in for years. He's not exempt from federal prison. Mike Lorenz, as again, understanding the system at itself. The entities engaged in what is kidnapping, who are the ones that are engaging in what are exercising fictitious authority under the law? It is the police. The police are actually not law enforcement. They're engaged in what is gang violence, criminal surveillance, targeting, and they rely on the people, while they cloak themselves as police officers who are actually demons, engaging in what is a demonic system of surveillance and targeting, while they are exercising authority that they don't have under the state and federal constitutions, which is kidnapping by definition. Very malicious conduct, and they do so while they are the forefront of how the entity is accomplishing kidnapping. That's why Mike Lorenz is honed in on. Those are the ones that pull guns, and then they are They are esteemed in court with regard to exercising discretion that they need to have in order to make split-hair decisions that they need to be trusted. No, it's unfettered discretion serving what is a surveillance system. All right, and that's unchecked, and it needs to be checked. The court system that is gang stalking is not a check on a system of surveillance. I've already prosecuted the court system. It's fully engaged in the surveillance. They are not a check. They're a facilitator. Okay, the sophisticated level of gang stalking amongst the court system. This is how you have a feces consumer like Tracy Banks and Jason Fields maintaining a conservatorship over meat. Those are the ones that eat feces. Those are the ones that are light slinging gargoyles. Those are the ones that can't control. They use their genitalia for transactions. That's what they do. While they're defaming me, the audacity of these feces consumers. They are not a check on this criminal system by the police, who are at the forefront of what is this surveillance system in order to kidnap and murder people. Organized crime. You're going to prison, okay? I've already sang it before. I'll do it again. You're going to prison. You're going to prison. You're going to prison. P-R-I-S-O-N. How many ways I need to say it? You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. It is currently 9:49 a.m. The entity has a fake sun over me while they're engaging in all manner of an admission to being mentally ill, turning into Chevron and an obsessed stalker that is maintaining surveillance as I operate my phone. They are willingly walking into federal cases. That's going to mental illness. They're obsessed, okay? These are demons. They're also co-conspirators of the entity itself, the government. I'm not talking about the demonic entity now. I'm prosecuting that demonic entity with regard to the corruption of the public entity. All right, follow me. And you can look at, again, my website. This is the P.O.C.wordpress.com regarding what is the nomenclature, the naming convention, what these terms that I'm using, because the demon possessor is so sick, okay? Because it's unprecedented, because it's demonic. Literally naming and creating a way in which to identify what the mentally ill are doing and how they do it and how you identify it and then how you prosecute it, how you legislate around it, excuse me. Okay, this is P.O.C. And the entity does have the fake sun in the same position that it was before those idiots put the fake sun outside of that hotel room window where everybody knows my vagina is under surveillance inside of room 273 at 1801 East G Street, where sex offenders engage in what is surveillance in hotel rooms. Regarding that, which isn't even relevant. Why are you so obsessed that you have to gang stalk me in the shower, in the bathroom, while I'm sleeping in a hotel? Because they're engaged in what is obsessive, mentally ill, demonic. It's monitoring. It's more than just stalking and surveillance. It's monitoring. Okay? That's P.O.C. And you're going into mental asylums and federal prison for that. That's no ordinary crime. And that's what the gang stalking police are engaging in. And they're doing so with the airport. They're doing so with the fire department. And these are deceptive misnomers. It's not an actual airport. They're engaged in surveillance. Those are feces consumers that crash planes intentionally into buildings in order to kill people. To kill them. Those are demons. That's what you're not going to be caught off guard by. You need to be informed. You need to know the companies that Satan owns, like Delta Airlines and UPS and Amazon. You need to know the companies that Satan is fully in operation of. You need to know these things. All right, it is currently, like I stated, 9:52 a.m. The entity has the fake sun on video. And I reminded you about where the fake sun is at the same time while I was at that hotel, speaking to what is targeting proven through what is science. The demon-possessed infect a jury pool. You don't get justice when the demons are sitting in the jury pool. You don't get justice when the demon is sitting on the bench. You don't get justice when the demons are sitting there calling themselves officers of the court. And by the way, my case also proves that. While those same demons are engaging in what is abusing the criminal justice system, where I am no criminal, never have been in my life, manufacturing it pursuant to a targeting system. In fact, while they did it, they are proving more my case regarding gang stalking. For them to have engaged in that very foolish conduct, which is fully documented from the beginning to the end. Not only that, you are not an attorney. You are not a judge. All right? That's not even a courtroom. It's a criminal act, and it's a means whereby the entity is facilitating the same targeting system. It's a facilitating venue. The feces consumers that want to be taken seriously, that want to have power and authority, it's Satan, who has no power and no authority outside of what you give him. And if, by the way, I just want to be clear, do not be deceived. If you do not know Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior, there is truth. Truth doesn't change. It's not about your opinion. It's not about the fake believers. There's plenty of them that don't know Jesus, and they might have put a bad taste in your mouth. It doesn't change who Christ is. He's the one who died and rose from the dead, not those fake demon-possessed Christians. They're not. That's an oxymoron. There's no such thing. You know them, and you'll know them by their deeds. You don't know what the Word of God says. You don't know Him as your Lord and Savior. You don't know the truth, and you are equally deceived. And you do not have authority over the devil. That's why you have a population of possessed people. You do not have authority over the devil if you do not know Christ Jesus. The stronger man is what Scripture describes him as. The stronger man. You're not more powerful than him. He is a spirit. It is in Christ Jesus alone. That's how you have millions of people that are demon possessed, fully in operation at what Satan wants. And I want to be clear. That's the entity that is speaking to what is an inevitable demise, because Christ wins always. I just want to make sure that this is clear. Do not ever forget the purpose of this message, that Christ Jesus alone is God. He is the one who sacrificed, committed no sin, and died, giving an opportunity to be rescued from damnation, from judgment, eternal judgment, irrevocable loss, darkness, anguish, separation from Christ, hell, which is where the demon-possessed are going. I just want to make sure that that's clear and that's not lost. And it's not lost because that's the core of everything. That's the authority upon which I speak. But those that miss the mark, you listen to everything else I say, but you disregard Christ Jesus. You're missing it. And that's your choice. But this is about Christ Jesus, and it always has been. And there is no other name on earth, under the earth, or in heaven by which you can be saved. There is no other name. I just want to be clear. I am alive and breathing. I am triumphant over a population of the demon-possessed who thought that they had a surefire, and ordinarily it is, but for Christ, okay, and His plan. There is no sex ritual. There is no amount of demons. There is no act of Satan or no spiritual attack that is going to overwhelm or supersede or rebut or overrule Christ the Lord at all. He has already overcome death. He is sitting on the throne outside of time. Those of you that want to listen to part of it, but you don't want to hear the rest of it, you're missing the point. And this is equally for you. He is coming back, and He's coming back in judgment. He already came as a sacrifice. He already came and provided an opportunity to be saved. He already did that. He's coming back in judgment. All right, it is currently, by the way, it's 9:56 a.m. The demon-possessed are stalking under the fake sun like yesterday didn't happen. That's also the evidence of their mental illness. The entity's keeping the fake sun over me, over the OVITT family community. Like, remember, I arrived yesterday. The demon-possessed gang stalkers operating the Omnitrans buses, where I'm being molested with impossible light on that bus. The mentally ill that are engaging what is harassment, because you're dealing with the demonic spirit and you're dealing with the government. That's why you have that poor treatment while I'm documenting. That's exactly how the government is going to be prosecuted as well, but I'm just giving you a breakdown. You're dealing with Satan. That's being inexplicably rude and hostile because Satan is mad about what you've documented before you encountered that particular demon-possessed person. That's what I'm documenting when employee 3603 is gang stalking me on Omnitrans Route 61, where I am already in at Euclid Avenue, and the entity has the fake sun over me. These are the demon-possessed, the mentally ill. License plate, Edward Jerry 20 Jerry 74 P.O.C. This is a population of demons, impossible light moving across Sarah's Regis Group. License 4KTL668, license 9SVL699. They're maintaining surveillance and furtherance of murder. This is P.O.C. It's currently, again, December 1st, 2025. This is P.O.C. It's 9:57 a.m.
Alrighty, this is documentation. It's 11:54 a.m. The people of the state are engaging in surveillance at 215 East C Street. This is the OVITT Family Community Library, where the entity that is stalking and exhibiting mental illness while they're stalking. This is the entity that's being criminally prosecuted, mentally diagnosed, prosecuted regarding terrorism. All of this is happening at the same time while the entity is engaging in its pattern of conduct, which is demonic. This is all state action. So at the venue, the entity has what is a supernatural. The fake sun's over the roof yesterday. I'm still remaining at the hotel, and I'm showing you what stalkers at a hotel where the fake sun's remaining over me. I go to the entrance. I walk to the bus stop. I get on the bus. The demons are stalking with the possible light on the bus, following me from place to place as a mentally ill population of demons that are co-conspirators of murder, for which they're going to be prosecuted for as a population. Okay? But the entity's engaging in this. The entity's maintaining psychopathic, which is criminal conduct, light activities, swiping at the entrance area while a bunch of stalkers are sitting around on computer screens monitoring. These are the demons that are mentally ill, gang stalking on the roads and the highways, stalking while I'm at the bus stop, stalking while I'm walking outside, stalking while they're driving, gang stalking while I'm on the bus, where you see employee 3603 and impossible light activity on the bus. Not only is that not the sun, that's not even sunlight, it's also underscored while I'm at the library already, hours ahead of time, and the entity is maintaining that same light activity where you see, which is prosecuting Omnitrans, prosecuting that employee, prosecuting the entity that is harassing me, speaking and harassing on behalf of that government, where you are a whole demon threatening my life while you're operating a bus and gang stalking me in doing so. Okay, but that's analysis of the mentally ill that are engaging in gang stalking. But the entity is engaging with a stalk when the possible light, monitoring while they're pacing all around, walking by me at the computer, while they're monitoring, stalking at the adjacent computers. All they're doing is monitoring, and this is the mentally ill that are stalking inside of a building. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's 11:56 a.m. Every employee is being prosecuted, and the entity that engaged in what is kidnapping, that's all documented on the record. They are going to prison. This is ongoing documentation regarding what is the overt criminal system that is under no circumstances a secret, nor is it anything that is being conspicuously executed. And the entity that engages in terrorizing any American citizen in the way in which the state of California is going to be subject to what is martial law, deportation, prosecution as terrorists, and loss of custody of their gang stalking children, whom they pose a threat to while they share in that mental illness and that criminal system. The entity are a bunch of demons that are pacing outside around the library while impossible light is moving across at the entrance with regard to every move that I make. This is how mentally ill they are. Okay, and you can see that while I'm at E Street in Euclid, and they're all under a fake sun, and the demons are pacing around, sounding their sirens at that intersection, stalking in planes, stalking in helicopters. This is the entity that's engaging in the stalking conduct inside of a library. It's very mentally ill. Okay, so that's why you see the images with the appropriate labels above the demons, as you're able to understand and recognize the demon possessed, the mentally ill that engage in that conduct. You hear the conversation of a demon possessed vagina monitor that's engaging in that conduct under the false impression that the evidence that is a gang stalker, proven as among science, while they're engaging in that conduct, and that is the entity that engages in that method of what is activity creation. Okay, that's the evidence also that's going to be used to diagnose them and the threat that they are to children, the threat that they are to themselves, the threat that they are to the public. It is a unpersuasive and also a mentally disturbing behavior while the system is underway. This is the entity that engages in gang stalking as a society, and that's the act that they maintain. I'm showing you that act. The evidence of the environment is evidence of that act as well, and then you analyze that act. That's how you're getting to the diagnosis and the criminal prosecution. Anyway, 11:58 a.m. the entity maintaining impossible light inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. It's not the sun and it's not sunlight. All right, they're all vagina monitors. They're all stalking. They're all co-conspirators of murder. It's literally going to be a prosecution with regard to the work schedule today. This is P.O.C. It's 11:58 a.m. All right, it is 2:01 p.m. So this is documentation regarding the entity that's engaging in what is harassment inside of the venue, while the entity that's engaged in the pattern of conduct is maintaining basically what is. First of all, this is mental illness that you're going to prosecute. It's criminal activity by the mentally ill and their demons. Practically, just break it down, literally what the demon-possessed are doing are engaging in stalking inside of the library. They're all psychopaths under a fake sun, maintaining the operation of a library, and all they're doing is monitoring. Okay, the entity's motivation is not just the fact that they're mentally ill, not just the fact that they've engaged in what is a publicly exposed failed sacrifice, which is prosecuted as a criminal conspiracy to commit murder. And gang stalkers are using the computers, coming in, checking out books, and talking to the librarians, and they're all gang stalking. They're doing so while their criminal system is being published. And I'm documenting the entity that's engaging in this mentally ill and criminally executed
plot that's also foiled at the same time. They're still engaging in that while the evidence that I'm publishing online is being exposed. So as I publish the internet, these are the demons. Literally now, the only purpose is because, like I stated earlier in the podcast, the proof is already, the prosecution, the fact that the government is engaging in stalking somebody and trying to kill them and defaming their character, and you have to get over all of that before you can even get to the fact of I'm entitled to justice, all right? So we're beyond that. We're beyond the entity that is proven already to be stalking. You are being informed and witnessing the behavior of the demon-possessed. Demon possession is synonymous with mental illness. The demons are literally stalking inside of the libraries, pacing all around, engaging in group conduct, psychopathic conduct, which includes their demon-possessed children and the demon-possessed employees. They're going to prison for kidnapping. But what their purpose is to literally just harass me while I publish the evidence. Okay, so you got a bunch of demons that are taking shifts, stalking around the surrounding computers, 2 through 4, engaging what is demonic activity. They're not creating earthquakes. Their demon-possessed 3 and 4-year-olds aren't creating earthquakes. They're not creating earthquakes when they're walking, when they're sitting, when they're putting their elbows on the table. These are demons, the same ones that are under a fake sun that's already over the entrance, when it's outside of the entrance, the window facing the 10 freeway at Archibald Avenue at the same time. The demons that are stalking in UPS trucks with engineer lights swiping across the asphalt, because those are hostile demons that know that I referred to that gang stalking murderous company committing what is an act of terrorism using UPS planes, that they are aware of, that I'm documenting the mentally ill vagina monitors calling themselves an Ontario Police Department, stalking me by helicopter under a fake sun that's supposed to be over 1801 East G Street, when you're paying attention to what was documented, exposing a bunch of demons stalking as a population under a fake sun that's in 2 mutually exclusive places, also at both places remaining until the end of the day. The entities engaging what is stalking as that population to this venue, where they're merely engaging what is harassment. And what is relevant is that Tracy Banks is going to prison while a population maintains what is harassment. While a population is harassing you, a population is engaging in domestic terrorism. While a population is harassing you with demonic behavior, a population is engaging in what is psychological torture and ongoing domestic terrorism and furtherance of murder. While they exhibit mental illness, which is inherently terrorizing. While a population is engaging in what is harassment and terrorism, while they are engaging in sexual violence such as stalking and monitoring you and following you and maintaining surveillance in and outside and all around the bathroom, they are engaging in that on behalf of the co-conspirator to murder, which is the Ontario Police Department, Mike LORENZ, who is going to prison. Okay, federal prison. They're doing this on behalf of that entity. They are entirely inept. They are entirely exposed. They are entirely mentally ill and desperate. That desperation is also legally relevant. That's the whole purpose of what they're doing. They're already exposed. The entity is already subject to what are court hearings where people are going to prison. There are people that have already dropped dead from black magic that these demons have. This is the entity that's engaged in what are acts of desperation. The outcome is that it's not going to work. You're dealing with the mentally ill. Feces consumers. The demon possessed. Satan still sends them in. The government, you're going to prosecute the public entity that's engaging in what is demonic behavior. However, the public entity is still acting vicariously through the people of the state. And being at work on your job is no legal defense. The employees are harassing and targeting with the demons with whom they need help in targeting in the engineered light under the fake sun with amplified noise. They're monitoring together, harassing together with regard to every video, every podcast, everything that I'm documenting. And they're engaging in that harassment with the intent to obstruct justice. Everybody using the computer, everybody representing a communication device, everybody walking, talking, present is engaged in federal stalking, by the way. They're engaging in it with the ongoing corporate intent to obstruct justice, for which you will also be subject to federal prison. Okay, just want to make sure that that's clear. Mike LORENZ is going to federal prison for the people of the state engaging in what is harassing me, while that agency is still engaging in this criminal conspiracy, which is evident through stalking me under a fake sun at E Street in Euclid, at the Starbucks where that agency committed kidnapping at 7:15 in the morning during daylight savings time, where that fake sun is also documented, setting at that same Starbucks, speaking to demon possession, corruption as an entity is targeting, and furtherance of what is murder, because that is always reasonably anticipated where a police department is engaging in what is targeting, not law law enforcement, and they're doing so also where the evidence shows ongoing relevant motivations such as fake conservatorships over that person that's being targeted by that agency, repeated acts of kidnapping upon malicious assertions about the character and alleged criminal activity, all of which is false. This is committed in furtherance of murder. Also, the entity that's engaged in acts of attempted murder, doing so while you are gang stalking with an entity that has been caught surrounded with evidence, planning murder, soliciting murder, having hitmen and whatnot. Mike LORENZ, the Ontario Police Department, are acting in furtherance of murder, which is why the police are gang stalking in the first place. That's why the police are engaged in criminal surveillance and not telling American citizens, by the way. This is an organized system of crime which is committed in furtherance of murder. Under all of that which I mentioned, this is the legal analysis, which is under all circumstances in furtherance of murder. They're engaging in what is harassment inside of the library, while that is already proven. And they're now just engaging in what is harassment because they want to harass me and terrorize me until the point that Mike LORENZ is essentially dragged in court. They're going to be prosecuted for this. This is the same venue that engaged in kidnapping, June 16, 2022, criminal summoning. You're talking about the entity that summons the agency that is gang stalking on their behalf while I'm inside of the venue, subject to that criminal pattern of conduct. Those mentally ill feces consumers wearing Ontario police uniforms, engaging in criminal summoning at every single venue where they are overwhelmed and bullied with the evidence, proving that they are targeting me and that they are mentally ill. All right? That's the agency that's engaging in that. The demon possessed are stalking at the computers. They're doing so as mentally ill gang stalkers that are acting in furtherance of that ongoing agenda, which remains, regardless of the fact that I've already proven. It doesn't matter. With regard to prosecuting co-conspirators of murder, they're still acting in furtherance of that criminal objective, and you're going to prison with that criminal intent with regard to those allegations and your criminal conduct that is proven that. And you're doing it as a proxy on behalf of that agency. Okay? No, I'm not interested in the room anymore. Thank you. That's a state actor he's monitoring. But anyway, the entity's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they're doing so while the evidence is being published online. And so with that, you can see on YouTube as of 2:09 p.m., the videos are published on YouTube. The entity engages in what is obsessively stalking. Remember yesterday evening at 4 p.m., the Ontario Fire Department that's gang stalking on the same street under a fake sun, while I am documenting on video at 8:52 a.m., criminal summoning is under a fake sun, which is targeting me specifically in furtherance of murder with the intent to obstruct justice, Title 18, meaning their criminal conduct is informed by their criminal surveillance online on devices. Okay, so that's what I'm pointing out in the legal analysis, that is Title 18 federal stalking conduct, because it's all federal stalking. They literally are sounding their sirens as I'm uploading my evidence on the internet. They're literally engaging with a stalking, flying over me by helicopter, as I refer to them in my previous video. The fact that they engaged in the same tactic with the people of the state, stalking me with the method of light. Driving by or riding by on your bike under the fake sun and engineer light is stalking with light. Driving by or riding by on your bike at nightfall while engineer light is still present, and they're stalking while the entity is simultaneously targeting using helicopters. I point that out. The next video, you see the Ontario Police Department stalking me by helicopter at the Starbucks. That is heavily documented, including engaging in what is kidnapping, where that agency does so pursuant to criminal summoning. Okay? This is federal prison all the way around. It is a dominoes effect. This entity that's acting in furtherance of murder is engaging in what is harassment. That is no ordinary harassment. That's harassment by the government that's conspired your murder, and is still doing so. The federal government is going to be prosecuted for this. Okay? I just want to be clear on that, but this is what an entity is doing while it is still targeting, and it's not a secret. It's also not mysterious. It's also nothing that's going to be lacking in federal penalties. The employees and the gang stalking patrons alike, subject to what is the same criminal system. But with regard to categorizing the systematic facilitation as you work at a venue, systematic facilitation as you come into the venue routinely as a patron, as you engage in whatever means whereby the entity, the bottom line is that it is under no circumstances impervious to prosecution. I have produced the ongoing documentation. Okay, so the system is already proven. The criminal objective is already proven. The entity's engaging in this now with regard to an ongoing obsession and delusion with slowing down, stopping. But since they are trying to, you're going to be prosecuted for that. This is what a government does. They murder people before they can report them, document it, etc. This is an entity that's engaging in that when that's not going to happen. And you're also not going to harass me all day long and stay out of a federal facility. You're not going to do that either. But this is what Mike LORENZ is going to prison for. This is what Tracy Banks is going to prison for. This is what Eric Spencer is going to prison for. This is an entity. Okay, the entities engaging in that while they are engaged in absurdly psychopathic and sexually violent conduct. Okay, this is stalking in the bathroom, engaging in surveillance in every corner of the library, making sure somebody is always there to pace around like a psychopath, including their demon-possessed children. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 2:12 p.m. This is what the entity has been doing. This is what I've been documenting historically, but I wanted to make sure I detail that. The entity that is going to be disbanded, the airport that's being shut down, the fire department that's being removed, the population that is being deported, okay, the children that are being removed from the custody of the people of the state, the entity that's going to be prosecuted as domestic terrorists. They're doing so as an entity that is already caught, and they are engaging in terrorizing me with regard to at least, if this is a psychopath's mind state, at the very least, we'll just harass and maybe that'll stop. That's the desperation of those that conspire murder while I'm conducting an ongoing real-time investigation, protecting my own safety and life. Okay? This is P.O.C. It's 2:13.
So just want you to see 6NLG 672. This is demonic. The entity's been maintaining flight by commercial plane right here, and this is the Ontario Police. Mike Lorenz is declaring his desire for prison, and he's also letting you know that he's mentally ill. So are the people of the state that are stalking with light. This is my shadow on the vehicle. Here's my shadow on the floor. This is called light activity. This is what they do under the fake sun. This is somebody openly engaging in terrorism. This is federal prison. 6 Nancy Larry George 672, and this is concerted conduct that Mike Lorenz, the demons of the Ontario Police, and the people of the state, while they maintain surveillance inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, they go inside of the library stalking on behalf of the police, engage in harassment on behalf of the police, engage in what is assault and battery, theft of property on behalf of the police, that are actually engaged in criminal surveillance, and they're demons. Okay, P.O.C. This is what the government responds with when it is exposed for criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder. And you're going to disband the gang stalkers that are masquerading as a police department. This is nothing close to law enforcement. This is demon possession. This is necessitating martial law for the terrorists that are the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Fire Department. This is mental illness while they're engaged in psychopathic pacing. And they are hostile demons, terrorists that are engaging in what is documented acts of violence, psychological torture, keeping my vagina under surveillance in contact with minor children, as I document the fact that minors are engaged in gang stalking. What do the sex offenders do? They utilize minor children that are engaged in vagina monitoring. This is nothing but stalking. Everybody knows what the Ontario Police Department are doing with their helicopters under a fake sun that rises and sets on me. This is the entity that's doing that with the people of the state. The library's closed. They're engaging what is light activity while they're focusing on where I'm located. Just like you know that when the fake sun is right here from sunrise until sunset. All right, Mike Lorenz is going to federal prison for the ongoing violence that I have suffered while the demon-possessed people of the state maintain criminal surveillance with that agency. Everybody that engaged in kidnapping pursuant to that pattern of conduct, which is what all of the demons of the Ontario Police Department have done, they're going to prison. All right, these are demons that are pacing. They're stalking on Lemon. They're stalking going into Sarah's Regis Group downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments. That was a demon stalking regarding light activity. That's a direct threat by a mentally ill psychopath. The light activity, the flashing of light in your face while the demons begin flying all around you, stalking by helicopter. They're monitoring and they're also stalking. The entity was stalking this morning at the Starbucks on this same street. This isn't a coincidence. And this is not the normal conduct of being an American citizen. This is not law enforcement by the police either. This is the entity that's gang stalking. OVITT Family Community Library committed kidnapping with this agency. They are going to federal prison. So are the demons of the Ontario Police Department. This is P.O.C. This is relevant for what is evidence that is speaking to what is martial law, for the disbanding of the terrorists that are facilitating the terrorism. This is relevant for what is deportation of the gang stalkers who are the people of the state and the impunity with which they engage in that terrorism. They're being deported. They're being prosecuted as terrorists. They're going to prison. It is currently, like I stated, 10 p.m. There's no airport over here. There's no airport east of this Ontario City Hall where Paul Leon will not be in office anymore. This is the entity targeting the city of Ontario that does so. The mentally ill that lack self-control engage in more what is documented acts of targeting and furtherance of murder. You're stalking as an airport while you conspire murder. You're stalking as a police department as you conspire murder. You're stalking with minor children and keeping me under surveillance through their monitoring tactics in that environment with their gang stalking parents in furtherance of murder. And you do so very heavily on video, on social media with the people of the state that are engaging in what is conspicuous stalking, operation of communication devices, doing so while I am documenting the entity that is monitoring with minor children. The OVITT Family Community Library is a crime scene,
Every employee is engaging in what is systematic surveillance, which is the basis in and of itself of federal prison. The entity is engaging in what is stalking me inside and outside of this venue, where they've committed more than one federal offense of criminal summoning with that agency whose pattern of conduct is already established. They are going to prison. Like I stated, the government's criminal system of targeting me is already established. The people of the state are going to prison. This is P.O.C.
10:09 p.m. Ontario Police stalking again by helicopter pursuant to Title 18 federal stalking, just like this morning under the fake sun at East Street in Euclid, not at 1801 East G Street, which would be the natural environment, and that would be healthy, lawful behavior, as opposed to mentally ill, psychopathic, sexually violent, and psychologically torturous criminal activity documented as a pattern of conduct. As I am capturing screenshots of the people of the state who are stalking in the path, stalking with that police department, who are together co-conspirators of murder, for which you have Mike LORENZ, who is going to federal prison. And Mike LORENZ is engaging what is targeting me as an agency with impunity. And every kidnapper of that agency is also evidence against the terrorist leader, Mike LORENZ. So are the people of the state. So as I'm capturing screenshots regarding the gang stalkers inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, that's called relevant positioning, audible activity, and light activity. The demon that's in the white van creating light activity at the same time that the demons are stalking in helicopter, flying in circles, flying over my head, also by plane and helicopter at the OVITT Family Community Library. This is where the entity, remember, is also then following me to the bus stop at F Street in Euclid, where the entity is flying an entirely different, from the same airport in Ontario, and engaging in what is a totally different trajectory, while you are then flying west at the same elevation next to me, stalking me, obsessed with me and my vagina, and also hostile, targeting me and further to murdering me because I maintain evidence about it. The mentally ill that are stalking in commercial planes are going to prison. The mentally ill that are stalking in helicopters are going to federal prison. The mentally ill Mike LORENZ, who was openly admitting to being mentally ill, incompetent, and unfit, both professionally and mentally, is going to federal prison for this pattern of conduct. And the entity is stalking by helicopter as I am in use of my device and engineer light, where the demons of that agency and the people of the state are stalking under a fake sun that rises and sets over me. And they're doing so pursuant to surveillance of what I'm doing online, which is also legally relevant because you are acting in furtherance of murdering me because I'm documenting you being the government. That is also why Mike LORENZ and the entity is subject to federal prison. Okay? This is P.O.C. It's currently 10:11 p.m. And where are they stalking me by helicopter? They're not flying over the library anymore. They're not flying in circles around that C Street turn circle, flies right over the top of my head, okay? That's also relevant for targeting. Targeting is also identified by what it is that I'm doing on my device at the moment that I'm doing it. Targeting is also identified by the specific environment, because multiple shadows, magnified size of shadows, varying concentrations of the color hue of your shadow, and shadows above your head, and engineer light that shoots about like lasers. None of that is normal light activity. This is relevant to what is exposing targeting as well. The fake sunrise and sunset, the fake moon at nightfall, which is over me while the demon possessed that are calling themselves, they're not going to anymore because the Ontario Police is being removed altogether. But they're currently, the demon possessed are currently disguising themselves as an Ontario Police Department in Ontario, California. The demon possessed are going to federal prison. They're being disbanded, and they are going to be subject to what is also martial law. Okay, the entity is engaging in that while the mentally ill are engaging in what is domestic terrorism, in concert with the mentally ill, who are the people of the state. The mentally ill, the demon possessed, are very highly triggered by all of the evidence that is very indicting, but it's also very triggering to them because they are being called what they are. They're being called what they actually call other people lacking any evidence and truth. They defame other people. They defame other people with manufactured information. They are being diagnosed on the internet and prosecuted based on their conduct. I'm not making up any details. I'm not making up any information. That's what the demon possessed do. That's what the mentally ill do. And demon possession that Mike LORENZ suffers from is synonymous with his fully exposed mental illness, while a pattern of conduct that he shares, including as an agency, he is engaging in what is exposing his mental illness, his unfit placement as a terrorist leader, not a police chief, while that agency is again flying over the top of my head. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. You know a lot with regard to the pattern of conduct while the entity practices it, and while they engage in that, while evidence about a government trying to murder an American citizen is still in real time engaging in that criminal conspiracy. The co-conspirators of murder inside of the OVITT Family Community Library are also subject to federal prison, and let me remind you about their names. Engaging in what is terrorism today, stalking by helicopter,
very imprudent criminal conduct that the mentally ill that are triggered in the moment do not think about with regard to co-defendants who are going to be legally accountable under the law regarding the same criminal system, regarding the same pattern of conduct that's underway while you are physically looking at demons representing a gang stalking police department, an oxymoron to be dealt with under federal law. And also while I'm inside of the venue where the gang stalking demons that are masquerading as a police department, fully exposed, engage in what is nothing other than targeting everybody that is aware of who I am and what my evidence is, and this entity that also stole my evidence is thereby prosecuted even by that. But they're prosecuted by the body of evidence, which everyone knows the Ontario police are engaged in criminal surveillance. What you need to know is that the federal government is maintaining an ongoing active federal case. They're subject to what are at any day now federal raids and raids that have already occurred. They are engaged in real-time criminal conduct, and this is not some sort of exception that's not relevant to that. They are engaged in real-time criminal activity while they are expecting, okay, with regard to what is being held accountable for this case. That's also relevant for how many years demons like Mike LORENZ are getting in prison, for how many years demons like Jay Chu and Rodriguez and L. Edwards and Ocean at Starbucks and Mickey at the OVITT Family Community Library and Tracy Banks kidnapping at the Woodside Senior Apartments and the demons that are gang stalkers, the entity that is kidnapping with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the demons that are kidnapping with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. Okay, the people of the state that are engaging in criminal summoning, like the Securitas security guard at Ontario Town Square. This is relevant to everybody's federal time in prison because they're going to prison. While the entity that is triggered in the moment lacks self-control, this is a federal case. This is not just getting your socks off and letting out your frustration as though there are no consequences. There are very real consequences pending in real time. And the entities engaging in that, this is what you are also aware of. Remember, you're analyzing. It's already proven, and everybody already knows, like I stated, the P.O.C. has already proven that the Ontario Police is no police department, that they are also no sane group of people, that they are, in fact, the demon-possessed who dress up necessarily in order to deceive the masses. Not only with regard to their identification and the authority that they should be entrusted with, but what they actually are. They're not even normal. These are people that are very mentally disturbed. I'll be diplomatic. They engage in criminal activity with minor children. They engage in sexual violence with minor children. They engage in sexual activity with minor children. They engage in what is mentally ill behaviors as a way of life. They're demons. And stalking, because that's what it is, proven. You're not doing anything other than stalking. And you're stalking somebody that's already proven it, moreover. This is not 2019, where I'm starting my playlist on YouTube, and I've got my first 25 videos, which is substantial evidence, by the way. Okay, but I'm establishing precedent. So me having over 8,000 videos of a government targeting is absolutely appropriate. That's fine. Okay, but the entities engaging in the average American citizen, you don't have to do that, and you don't have to suffer that long. Mike LORENZ is going to federal prison. Derek Williams is subject to federal prison for what I've been subject to for a prolonged period of time while this federal government has been stealing my money. And then they try to use that while they consume feces, engaging in what is trying to use the fact that you have stolen from me, an accomplished attorney who has been targeted in the workplace, and that's the reason for the economic situation that I'm in, and it is because of you as a criminal, while you use that to defame me to make yourself a feces consumer feel better. That's called criminal defamation by a maniacal psychopath who is delusional and perfectly comfortable in those illusions. Oh, I'm better than you because I have money. In fact, it's my money. Because I have property. In fact, it's my property. And I have money because I am not hiring you, because I'm harassing you on the job, because I'm targeting you, because I'm gang stalking you, prohibiting you from being able to be on a job without being subject to terrorism and psychological torture and sexual violence, things like vagina monitoring. But nobody knows that, so I'm just going to say, you're homeless, you're crazy, you're going to prison for these things. It's called criminal defamation, and it's highly psychopathic, including while it is coexisting, simultaneously occurring with stalking by any police department, let alone the to-be-disbanded Ontario Police, where the Nephilim are going to be removed from being able to masquerade as law enforcement. And that is all relevant. The demons that are gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library: Lindsay, Mickey, Alan, John, Myra, Alex, Alexander, Natasha, Yesenia, Taylor, Katie. And those are the demons whose name I know. You don't need that. I don't need that. I like to make sure I specifically and with detail identify those that are keeping my vagina under surveillance while they like to live their lives as though they're doing something else noble, lawful, healthy, sane, and they're nothing of the sort. There are the same feces consumers that are stalking me obsessively and with a maniacal edge in a helicopter. They are obsessed with me. I am the beginning and the end of their day. The entire city of Ontario, that is the state, is engaging what is centering its focus on me. And how do you know that? How do you know that I'm not some hypersensitive, hyperbolic liar that's imagining it? Because of fake sun, because that's not the natural environment. Where you are out there in Louisiana and you're looking at the sun outside of your window at work. The fake sun is remaining over me from sunrise until sunset. We're a whole population of demons who are lacking in self-control and any strategy in what is a federal tribunal. Why? Because they are maniacal psychopaths who are thinking about the moment, and the moment includes the fact that it is a documented pattern that you are stalking me all the time, not just in bathrooms, not just when I'm on public transportation, not just when I go to other cities, not just when I'm sleeping, not just when I'm in my hotel rooms, but also when I'm walking about, and a population of demons are obsessively stalking me in what is not even a natural environment. That is your proof that they're obsessed with my vagina, and the public needs to know that, because this is not within anyone's imagination, and it certainly is not within the imagination of the targeted individual on whose behalf I advocate. The entity's engaging in this, and Tracy Banks is going to prison for it. This little hypersexual, well, she's not little, she's over 60 years old, which is disgusting. But this hypersexual high school graduate is engaged in what is soliciting the violence against myself so that she could steal my identity, so that demons, psychopaths that like to take out their rage under the guise of being a police officer and beat on people and murder them, and it be called a day's work in law enforcement, while they get away with stealing money from people like myself that don't have evidence that they've been targeted, that don't have the proof and have no voice to speak to the fact that they're not mentally ill at all, that they're not criminals at all, actually, that they've been stolen from, if they're even aware of that. Tracy Banks is going to prison. She's going to federal prison, where she's going to get the detailed, routine battery of mental examinations that she desperately needs, and so does her co-defendant. The demons, the many demons, including Mike Lorenz of the Ontario Police Department, who gas up helicopters to follow me around, to monitor my vagina, to quote-unquote respond to what they're triggered by, while they admittedly keep my evidence under surveillance. You are a prosecutorial suicide. You're a wreck while you're engaging in what is monitoring the evidence that's going to be submitted in court. Not only is the judge looking at the evidence that you're stalking me as a police department, which is unprecedented terrorism in the United States, the federal courts, the country, the world, notably a federal judge or many federal judges are going to be aware of the fact and witnessing the evidence, tangible, hardcore evidence, a repository of it, that not only have you been stalking as an agency, but you engage in a documented pattern of doing so in real time while I maintain that evidence, which is also not a coincidence. There are no coincidences under things like a fake sun, which I am more than happy to define and make very clear regarding what that means to a federal judge, in federal court, within federal law, while you are exposing what is domestic terrorism amongst a demon-possessed, that is a mentally ill population of terrorists who are targeting, who routinely engage in consuming feces of the person that they're obsessively stalking, while they also at the same time exhibiting severe mental illness, psychopathic, want to try to denigrate that person's character while you're consuming their feces. You obsess over them and their genitalia. You stalk them. You don't even sleep. You never take a break from monitoring them. That's even beyond surveilling me using your devices. Monitoring is you're monitoring every physical movement, my heartbeat, my breath, my digestive system, how many times I'm blinking. When I'm moving my fingers and my toes, they're demons that are obsessed with my anatomy. That's the reality. And they engage in sexual activity centered on me. They don't even care about their kids that they're gang stalking me with. They don't care about their spouses that they're gang stalking me with. I'm the focal point. I'm the reason why they're doing what they're doing with all of the props that they're around while they're doing it. I am the centerpiece. I am the focal point. They show you this even with engineered light. They're stalking with light. You are bat poo crazy, and they're going into the appropriate facilities for that. That includes Mike Lorenz. He's going to prison. The entity's engaging in what is stalking with impossible light right now. A demon is skating by. They're stalking. Okay, the entities engage in that pattern of conduct while that mental illness is exhibited and while they're maintaining conversation on a scooter with light activity and music. This is a mentally ill demon. It's not separate from the entity that just flew over my head by helicopter. These are demons that do so. While they are mentally ill, they are engaging in what is mentally ill corporate criminal conduct that is a threat to national security. This is why you have UPS crashing its planes into where are American citizens who died from that. These are the demons that engage in that. You have the demon-possessed that are engaging in stalking in helicopters. Why are you doing that? Because you are absurdly mentally ill. This is an entity that's engaging in that, and they're doing it as a population who is obsessed. This is the pattern of conduct. The entities engaging what is stalking with impossible light, while a stalker is maintaining ongoing means of monitoring. That's what this is with the bad music. And a demon that is, again, focused on me for what reason? It's not just a weirdo. It's a demon-possessed one that's engaged in gang stalking. That's what that's about. All right, this is the entity that's engaging in this P.O.C, and this is relevant to the Ontario police that are flying over the top of my head, engaging what is stalking with these demons that are pacing at the Ontario Town Square. Before this demon approaches, this is relevant to the mental illness that's shared. But let me be clear. The demons at OVITT Family Community Library are going to prison. The demons are stalking with the airport that you saw and you heard on video. The demons that are stalking, engaging with this impunity. You stop right in front of the target individual. You turn your hazard lights on. All right, you engage in threatening that American citizen with the police that then begin flying in circles like psychopaths over the top of your head. This is terrorism that they're sharing in everywhere as a population, by the way. So I want you to take that picture because you're going to apply it to the demons inside of the OVITT Family Community Library who act with the same impunity. They don't have vehicles with hazard lights on. So what they're doing inside of the OVITT Family Community Library is they're stalking while engineer light is flying all about on the ceilings and on the walls. I've provided a plethora, a playlist of the impossible light activity that's inside of that library, which is nothing other than what is a psychological torture trap, where they're engaged in criminal surveillance, not librarian, not any sort of business concerning what is actual librarians. They're vagina monitoring feces consumers. That's it. They're stalking in the same with the same obsession that the demon-possessed vagina monitors of the Ontario police, who spend thousands of dollars to gas up helicopters to stalk me, because I am the focal point. I am their obsession. That is not a compliment. That is a national security threat. Okay? The entity's doing it while they're also engaging with a surveillance of evidence, and they're doing it while that evidence is being published on the internet. That is speaking to the ability to threaten you, whoever you are, with impunity, kill you in plain view. With disregard for the law, with disregard for the federal government that's maintaining a case and investigation, maintaining court hearings, and that police department, that agency, that entity is still targeting as though there are no consequences. That's what that is about. That's what is informing you about the severity of their mental illness. The entity's engaging in this. There's no coincidence. The entity is triggered while I'm pointing out the pattern this morning, stalking me under a fake sun. All you're doing is stalking. It is stalking because it's a fake sun. It is stalking because it's engineered light. It is stalking because you're always following me around where there is no airport over here. You didn't take off. You're not landing over here. That's not rocket science either. As clearly as is a fake sun is remaining over the same property for 9+ hours. You're stalking. So you're also stalking while I'm publishing evidence about you targeting me. You're stalking. Okay? But nonetheless, science is going to prosecute. Science is going to serve to provide justice, because the demon-possessed will not be sitting in any jury pool. The demon-possessed are the ones that are terrorizing with that agency. That agency, I just want to be clear, in the same way that they are obviously stalking, you hear they're stalking by helicopter, they're doing so, and they're going to regret it. You know why? Because Mike LORENZ has fully exposed the fact and admittedly engaged in what is criminal conduct, defining, confirming, underscoring that he has made a bet to accomplish murdering me. And he has openly engaged in what is providing that confirmation, which I have gone to the extent to make sure that I dutifully document it. Okay? So in federal court, there is no controversy regarding whether the Ontario police have conspired my murder, whether the people of the state have co-conspired my murder. There's no controversy there, including while the fools are repeatedly stalking and harassing with things like a fake sun, an engineer light, a fake moon at night, and harassing, even as I speak, of the vagina monitors themselves and their demon-possessed children who are terrorists in the U.S. Gang stalking. There's no controversy regarding whether the conspiracy to murder Erica Spencer, while the Ontario police are documented engaging what is targeting a pattern of conduct by that agency. And it is reasonably foreseeable that an American citizen shall come to their demise, where a police department outside of any law, no warrant, no probable cause, and no legitimate interest under the state and federal constitutions is engaging what is targeting them in spectacular ways, such as stalking them using helicopters and making malicious and false assertions, allegations that they also know are false because they're engaging in what is proven stalking already. They're going to prison for conspiring murder. So is Mike LORENZ, including while the people of the state engage in acts of violence, engage in what is psychopathic stalking tactics, engage in psychological torture, engage in what is harassment, even engage in what is just cussing at me because I'm documenting you. Of course I'm going to document you. You're the government. And because you engage in harassment, guess what? This is logic. That doesn't change the fact. Okay? The demon-possessed are mentally ill and they are delusional. They are violent terrorists. So if they cuss you out, that means the facts are in their favor, and that is not what that means at all. At all. And under no circumstances at all. That's entirely illogical. Okay? That's an outright failure in they're not engaging in any syllogism whatsoever, but that's a failure in syllogism. That has absolutely nothing to do with the facts that remain. And the entity remains surrounded by those facts. Excuse me. And the entity has been surrounded by a body of evidence for years. Mike LORENZ is not only going to prison, Derek Williams is not only subject to federal prison, but this is subject to, and I'm talking about what is evidence that is more than sufficient, beyond a reasonable doubt, is to a scientific degree regarding the pattern of conduct of targeting me, which is committed in reasonable furtherance of murdering me, because no police department has any constitutional basis, legitimate interest, or lawful authority to engage in stalking. Because you don't have any warrant or probable cause. There's no criminal activity that was committed, and you have to make up information, which is a criminal act that you're committing against me every time you do it. Every single time you do it. And you're stalking on a day-to-day basis. You're severely mentally ill when you're engaging in stalking, and then you stand in my face talking about anything, including the fact that somebody called you. Who called you? Oh, the feces eaters, the people of the state that are light slingers, that are stalking with impossible light under the fake sun with you. Their mentally ill criminal pattern of conduct is putting the entire entity in prison. Criminal summoning, kidnapping, criminal defamation, serial stalking, meaning you're engaging in what is systematically, repeatedly targeting me with the Ontario police, because that's why you're stalking at work at the OVITT Family Community Library. And in case you did not understand that, whether you want to try to argue it or not, you're going to prison for it, because the facts don't change. You have been surrounded with the evidence. You can say what you want. You get your day in court, but you're still going to prison. So the entities engage in this, and that's what you're mindful of, while the fools engage in a very outdated tactic. Because targeting me with impossible light provides a body of evidence that you are demons who are engaging in what is more than just stalking. You're engaged in what is monitoring, which is demonic, i.e. mentally ill. Stalking me under a fake sun is showing that you are more than just stalking, that you are demons who are monitoring, and doing so through what are supernatural means. You're mentally ill, and you're highly malicious, and you are inherently corrupt. Inherently corrupt. Stalking me in helicopters and planes shows how fully invested you are in my murder, a criminal objective with which you share with the people of the state. And this is not me just being able to utter that eloquently. This is supported by evidence. I don't have to say a word. The pattern of conduct is on the internet. You can go into the evidence yourself. Dive in. It's a bottomless pit of evidence. You're talking about what is over 8,000 and that's just the videos. We're not even getting into the years of podcast documentation evidence of multiple police departments stalking me by helicopter. I didn't get it on videos. I didn't get San Bernardino Police Department stalking me by helicopter in San Bernardino after this agency stole my vehicle in Ontario, California. And the San Bernardino police engaged in the same pattern, the psychopathic pacing. I'm in a different city, having committed a crime in a parking lot outside of McDonald's, and the San Bernardino police just randomly picked me to fly in circles over the top of my head over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? No, that's not a coincidence. And it's unreasonable to posit that. But this is why you document the pattern of conduct. Mike LORENZ is going to federal prison. And there is a body of evidence that I've prosecuted on the internet.
That's what this is. I'm legislating on the internet. This is not witchcraft that they're engaged. It is witchcraft that the entity is typically successful with the ordinary target individual, with other people. Not only is your witchcraft, not only am I impervious to a glory to God, okay, but it's literally not effective when the target individual is maintaining detailed evidence about. That is to prove, okay, feces eaters, that is a body of evidence that proves that they're not imagining anything. You're not creating any illusions when illusions are shattered by factual information that a judge is going to cling to. NASA itself is going to concede to. There are no illusions there. The only illusion is that you're still wearing police uniforms, driving around and using helicopters as though nobody, including this country, doesn't already know what you are and what you're doing and who your focus is, which is my vagina and Erica Spencer, who has already prosecuted you. And you're so triggered, you pull out another helicopter. And you know why? Because you're going to prison and you know it. And so does everybody else that's watching this spectacular defeat of Satan, who goes by the name of the Ontario Police Department, who goes by the name of the municipality, the city of Ontario, okay, who goes by the name of OVITT Family Community Library. Satan is an entity, okay, this is a spirit, a demonic entity. This is an entity that's engaging in conduct, and they are doing so with regard to what is the absence of any hope. You're going to diagnose mental illness. The prosecution is already done. Gang stalkers are going to be prosecuted and diagnosed. This is P.O.C, okay? The Ontario police stalking just like the Ontario airport is, and the Ontario police are stalking while the Ontario airport is. An airport that is located at 2500 Airport Drive. I have a wealth of evidence of the entity stalking me with a fake sun aboard Omnitrans, and that fake sun is moving over me while I am on the property of the Ontario International Airport that's maintaining surveillance at that airport in violation of federal law and engaging in what is gang stalking me wherever I'm located in the city of Ontario where there are no takeoffs from an airport. That's located at 2500 Airport Drive, and you are hovering over me perpetually throughout the city. You are following where I go, maintaining that same level of elevation. You're doing so while you maintain that same formula regarding audible activity. So even while they're stalking in the sky space at any elevation, the entity is maintaining amplified audible activity and impossible light activity. But the pattern of conduct is showing they're hovering over all manner of locations throughout the city of Ontario while you're coming from the same airport. The same airport where pilots are accomplishing their takeoffs at the terminals, not taking off over the amphitheater of the Ontario Town Square at 224 North Euclid Avenue. The takeoff occurred miles back at 2500 Airport Drive. There will be no public nuisance contrary to what the Ontario Airport is committing while they're gang stalking and furtherance of murder with Mike LORENZ, the Ontario Police Department. It's the same police department that's stalking while they use commercial planes. I just want to make sure that this is clear, because while these demons are focused and triggered, you're triggered because you're a psychopath, by the way, and you're incriminating the people of the state who are going to federal prison. You have not done them any favors. You have aided in prosecuting them. You have aided. You have served my prosecutorial purposes. They're going to prison, and you have proven that they have conspired my murder along with you, and they're going to prison. They have proven that they are aiding and conspiring, fully a part of conspiring my murder, and they're going to prison, where they are stalking with the police, where you violate those rules. The rules are already laid out, and it's already documented. You're going to prison, where prison is in the where prison is mandated regarding gang stalking. You're going to federal prison. Okay, but the people of the state are going to be prosecuted as domestic terrorists. They're enemies of the state. They're being deported. All right, they're maintaining a criminal record regarding being a terrorist. You're not receiving government assistance. You're not maintaining custody of your children. The children that not only are you having sex with, you're including in the sex offense of gang stalking. And you do more of it while I document. And that's what you, as a violent psychopath, call a response. You're not responding to evidence. You don't respond to evidence. You only do that when you are feces consumers who are anticipating going to prison. Okay? So the people in the state are gang stalking at the
Downtown Ontario luxury apartments, at the OVITT Family Community Library, the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking with the police. The airport is being shut down. The airport has shared in what is multiple kidnappings of myself as well, in the same way that they are stalking with impunity. That impunity is relevant in federal court. Okay, that's not an airport. They are co-conspirators of murder and serial kidnappings with the intent to obstruct justice. And they are mentally ill, demons that engage in the act of violence of terrorism, such as U.S. that engaged in what is murder of American citizens in Kentucky. And they did so under a fake sun that was setting at that location where that plane crash occurred. That was not sunlight. That is not where the sun set either. There's only one sun, and that's how you know what's going on in Kentucky. It is shown and proven through the environment. The mentally ill engage in very imprudent and unwise things such as stalking me in helicopter, and I have it in thousands of videos proving where nobody is imagining anything. You will never defame another American citizen, and the proof that you have conspired that targeted individual's murder, and it is also the proof of your severe mental illness regarding your failed witchcraft. And you are so mentally ill that you couldn't put that together yourself. I've never practiced witchcraft a day in my life, but it relies on illusions of the devil. There's no illusion when it's a body of tangible evidence. You must be thinking that your sex rituals are going to work on a federal judge or in federal court. You're imagining things. You can't cope with reality. All right? You're incapable of functioning like a normal, healthy human being. And so you engage in delusional behaviors because you refuse to engage in that which is lawful, to cease to engage in what is criminal conduct and cease to facilitate others sharing in that. You're a terrorist, and you're going to be prosecuted accordingly. You're going to be treated as the antagonist to this country that you are. I hope you're ready for that, while you're stalking me day and night in helicopters. And why? Because I'm the one with the actual authority under the Constitution. Did you know that? It is actually a duty of an American citizen to expose the lawlessness of the state. And that's exactly what I've done. And Mike Lorenz is going to federal prison for kidnapping me as a department's pattern with the intent to obstruct justice. You're going to prison. You're going to federal prison, sir. And you are absurdly psychopathic. They are a threat to men, women, and children. I want to be clear. Demons are not actually men. They are of the male gender. These are not men. Okay, men are not sitting around stalking a woman together. Men are not engaging with a sexual violence. And I mean, sexual violence is sexual violence already, but you're talking about sexual violence that's also demonic. So there is a twisted, delusional, demented feature to the sexual violence of the demon possessed, such as molesting your body with that which isn't even naturally occurring light. It's light that's just occurring out of nowhere. They're demons, and they're engaging in what is magic, witchcraft. And they want to touch all over your body with it. They engage in acts of hostility with it. They engage in that, and then they simultaneously engage in what is having a conversation like this demon that you heard in the background, playing his music that he recorded in the garage. He's never getting a record deal. He's a gang stalking weirdo, a vagina monitor, who is stalking with impossible light. That's a mentally ill psychopath. You listen to the conversation, you pay attention to the demeanor, and you look at the environment. You're dealing with mental illness. There are those that are very much disrespectful and hostile and violent as well. That's also relevant to assessing mental illness. But the default, the entity that's supposed to contain itself and maintain a passive-aggressive means of monitoring you and obsessively stalking you, they keep their back to you. They don't address you. They do so as those that you don't know. They do so while they appear consumed in other activities with other people. That's the mentally ill population, while they are stalking you under a fake sun. And you are indeed stalking. The entity is mentally ill and intellectually inept, not capable of fathoming that someone could maintain a body of evidence in order to establish a pattern of conduct. And stalking with regard to terrorism by the government with a population is defined as that which is shared in that environment, where you're paying attention to what is an unnatural environment and ongoing presence in that environment, presence that is vicarious on behalf of that government that maintains no warrant or probable cause, no legitimate interest under the state and federal constitutions. And they do so vicariously, stalking you by proxy as a population that shares a behavioral pattern in a scientific impossible environment. It's a scientific impossibility. NASA, a rocket scientist from NASA would be forced to agree with me. This is not any sort of debate regarding the environment where you're at, and you are stalking by definition. It's an established pattern of conduct. You're a stalker. You are only delusional because you rely on your gang violence to try to defame the targeted individual. Gang violence isn't working in federal court. That's not working. And the evidence of you being a mentally ill psychopath stalking with light is going to be used to diagnose you. You're going into padded rooms. You're going to be physically restrained. You're going to be subject to routine mental examinations. You will never be in law enforcement. You're not going to move to another town. You're not going to move to another state or county. You will never be able to bear a weapon. You're never collecting welfare again. You're not keeping custody of your kids. You're not staying in this country as an immigrant. You're not staying out of prison if you're a gang stalking police officer. All of that is happening. All of it. You are stalking by definition in that environment. That's why that scientific impossibility is there. The demon-possessed resort to physical violence, sexual violence, ongoing harassment and terrorism tactics. Criminal defamation is a favorite. That's what they cling to. And you know why? Because they are mentally ill and they know it. And they are petrified, especially when someone like myself is surrounding them with logic, facts, evidence that they're triggered by, because they know that I know what they are. They know. But they're engaging in what is a passive-aggressive system where if you don't abide by those rules, meaning this is private property, no, it's not under the fake sun. No, it's not. This is private property. No, it's not when the government's engaging in surveillance. No, it is not. This is private speech. I can say what I want. No, you cannot. While you're gang stalking. No, you cannot. You're speaking as a state. You're present on behalf of the state. Your home is a facilitating venue where the feds will bust your door down and you're subject to what is a raid anytime, any place, since you're gang stalking everywhere. It's not a private property. It's not private activity. It's not constitutionally protected. They're a public entity and they're a demonic entity. And they are inferior. And their inferiority, they have responded with acts of violence, including kidnapping and criminal summoning. They are acts of terrorism with the intent to obstruct justice and furtherance of murder while having the audacity to keep that evidence also under surveillance. You stalk me using helicopters and with the people of the state while I'm in the midst of documenting you. You have to be a feces consumer to think that that's going to be missed in a federal case that you are definitely subject to. You're going to be in court and I'm going to let you know now the message of the day, the prophetic message of the day is you're going to prison. You are going to federal prison. The entity is, however, engaging in what is relying on gang violence. Gang violence plus corruption. Because you can have as much gang violence as you want. All the gang members can lie all they want, but you have to have a corrupt court system, corrupt actors within that court system to facilitate this. You don't have that coincidentally. Where you have surveillance, understand surveillance is synonymous with targeting. The court also is a part of that surveillance system. The court knows that the police are targeting you. The court knows that it's not a real case against you. This is proven through the maintenance of that fake sun. It's right over me at the court. That impossible light activity is occurring at that courthouse. The entity's stalking by helicopter. I already have it on the record. They're stalking by helicopter at the courthouse. The entity engaging what is defaming my character. Excuse me, I am an officer of the court. The entity has been very disrespectful to my name in my absence. Nobody brought that up, though. Demons that are feces consumers like Tracy Banks just blatantly lies and says that I'm not a lawyer. Says who? Says who? When do you lose your legal skill set and your Juris Doctor because you haven't paid your fees to practice and represent other people in court? Where does that mean? This is somebody that is delusional, though. Those are the ones that tell themselves, I'm going to keep on stalking by helicopter because I'm going to make the target individual believe that there's no federal case. How are you going to make me believe that when I have over 8,000 videos on the internet that everybody is watching? You are going to prison. The fact that you're surrounded with anything called the P.O.C., evidence that nobody is imagining that they're looking at. They saw the fake sun over me this morning at 8:46 a.m. They saw that video related on YouTube regarding the same location at 1:13 in the afternoon at the same place. They saw that. Nobody's imagining your public demise, your mental illness. You're stalking me and monitoring my vagina. Nobody is imagining that. You are embarrassed, however. You're triggered by it. And you know why you're triggered? Because you are actually mentally ill. which, again, the people of the state that are learning about the devil. The devil, which is a spirit, is what is also the cause of this mentally ill behavior, which you are also not imagining. It is not a surprise that the mentally ill tried to defame my character necessarily behind my back, and they did it to somebody who is an officer of the court. And by the way, the only reason why I have not bothered to pay the gang stalking state of California legal fees is not only because I don't need the state of California that's targeting me in order to prosecute it, but also because the entity, as I've also proven in my evidence, has been targeting me in the workplace. So you're talking about what is merely financial, economical. What does that actually have to do when you're getting down to what the state of California is doing regarding my position as an officer of the court? Now you're getting to what are principles. The entity would like to use anything when they can't even spell. They can't even engage in what is providing you an intelligent definition regarding any legal matter whatsoever. You know what they do? Like Tracy Banks, she hops on someone's genitalia, okay? She uses spell work. What is Jason Isaac Fields? He uses his genitalia as a transaction, in a transactional manner as well. They lie and conspire and make up. These are demons. Okay, the fact that they are demon possessed, a spiritual condition, is manifest in their corrupt and perverted and very bankrupt behavior. That's what I'm getting at. They're demons. So that's why I mean that. When I say something like that, they're demons, you're talking about debased, no standards, the cockroaches of mankind, stalking American citizens in helicopter. I have the San Bernardino Police Department doing that to me. After the Ontario Police Department stole my car, after I documented them stalking me by helicopter while I'm sleeping in my car, you knew exactly where I was located. And you know that. It's not just me just making an allegation that a federal judge can't clarify or confirm. The federal judge knows it because I've provided a body of evidence regarding a pattern of conduct. They kept a fake sun over my car. They kept a fake sun rising and setting over my car where you were stalking by helicopter, and then you stole my car. After I filed or began my process regarding a civil case about this very criminal system that Thomas Garza criminally evaded service of process for. This is an entity that's surrounded with evidence. The gang stalking court knows very well that you've been targeted by the gang stalkers of that Ontario or whatever Ontario Police Department. It's a comprehensive system. They commit kidnappings together. So those of you that I've already said it, Shannon Faherty, Lisa Rogan, I've said many of your names. You're listed on the internet. You're going to prison. You are delusional. They're out here stalking me by helicopter. I'm not going anywhere. This is not witchcraft. This is your delusional mind state being made publicly known so that you will be subject to the routine mental examinations that every prosecuted gang stalker is going to be subject to. You're going to prison. As clearly as you are watching this evidence going on the internet, I don't have to have Lisa Rogan at the Ontario Town Square. I have Lisa Rogan with regard to her targeting me as a state, defaming me and doing so in a courtroom where she's gang stalking. This psychopath, this feces consumer is going to prison while her co-defendant, the state, the Ontario police, are targeting day and night. Because that's exactly what was going on when she engaged in what is kidnapping via criminal defamation. Just making it up. That's what gang members do. And it requires corruption of the government. Because the gang members can make up all they want. But it takes a corrupt court system in order to facilitate that, to permit that to proceed. The entity, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the San Bernardino Justice Center, San Bernardino Superior Court, the Civil Court, and the appellate level and the California Supreme Court have been documented, meaning that is the proof to you regarding this targeting system that is fully underway, facilitating this targeting system on the roads and the highways out here amongst the entity that's gang stalking with the gang members that are calling themselves a police department. Okay, while you hear that amplified train activity, because the demons are triggered when I refer to Lisa Rogan, who's going to federal prison, the entity is maintaining impossible light all over the clock at the Ontario Town Square. Okay, these are demons. There's no car over here driving by for that impossible light activity. Just like employee number 3603 when I'm aboard the Omnitrans that is on Holt Boulevard, and the entity already had the fake sun over the demons that are gang stalking at this OVITT Family Community Library today. The same library where the entity is stalking me en route to this library and stalking me as I exit this library by helicopter. The same agency, that same entity that is engaging in that while I'm being molested aboard Omnitrans before the fake sun could have possibly exclusively been over me at ARCO, over me at Starbucks, where the agency that's demon-possessed is stalking by helicopter. All right, they're doing so while they are doing so amongst that scientific impossibility, speaking to not just that demon that's in that helicopter that doesn't like me. It's an agency that's practicing a pattern of conduct, an agency that's representing an entity that's engaging in what is monitoring together. Everybody within the zone of relevant positioning is stalking me. They keep a whole fake sun over me. And they do demonic things that are supernatural, like having light move across my person on the bus. Both on the hood, on the inside ceiling of the bus, and then as you saw employee 3603 engaging in what is sexual violence in a demonic manner, exhibiting mental illness by him and everybody else on that bus. While they're molesting my person because they're hostile demons. That's what the demon-possessed do. When they're monitoring you. That's what's going on when the demons sound their sirens, by the way. You're not ignorantly hitting the people that stayed in the middle of the street on a skateboard. You're monitoring. It's called light activity. And they also engage in that when they are hostile demons, like hostile to my documentation. Then the entity engages in what is touching all over and stalking and harassing, following all over the place with what is not even headlights. There's no car driving over here on the Ontario Town Square property. There's no car, there's no headlights, there's no sunlight that's streaming across the ceiling of the bus of Omnitrans, where employee 3603 is exposed as a potential immigrant subject to deportation, but is engaged in what is the perpetual sex offense while he is monitoring me in furtherance of murder, doing so as a state actor operating Omnitrans bus line, which is heavily documented, targeting me for years in furtherance of murder. That's relevant to the RICO case. So the entities engaging in what is stalking with the possible light while you hear that amplified train activity, while they're triggered because Lisa Rogan has been subject to what is an ongoing prosecution. Just because I don't say that demon's name every day, I don't have to do that. You're prosecuting a whole government. Like I said, it's already documented. Everyone is going down. Everyone. It's already documented. You're watching your prosecution while I am capturing an entity stalking me every single day. That includes this vagina monitor, Lisa Rogan, who engaged in kidnapping in February of 2020, pursuant to kidnapping of this agency, the Ontario Police Department. LORENZ is going to prison. Rogan, she's going to prison. The demons that are gang stalking in OVITT Family Community Library, you know why they are? Because terrorists like Lisa Rogan and Mike LORENZ remain free, facilitating public corruption like this and furtherance of murdering American citizens that they target as terrorist leaders that don't have evidence to prove that a judge is targeting them, defaming them, in order to get away with targeting as a whole corrupt government. Because you want to steal my money, because you want to steal my property in order to steal my money, because you're hostile, because you know that I know that you're a demon and I have the wherewithal, the skill set in order to prove it. Not only that about what the demons are doing, but the fact that you're a demon, period. We can go into logic, tangible evidence. We can reason together. Oh yeah, they're demons. They're demons. Not just criminals, they're demon possessed. Absolutely. It's not just money that is motivating the entity that is targeting, the entity of demons that are targeting me. Now, the entities engage in this, and that's what I want to be clear that you're aware of that, because that's what's happening at the Ontario Town Square now, where the airport is stalking and Mike LORENZ is going to prison, where the airport is stalking and the people of the state are going to federal prison, where the airport is stalking and demons like Shannon Faherty and Lisa Rogan, they're going to federal prison. This is the entity, they're the ones that are missing the details. But the federal government, a federal judge, this competent investigation that I'm maintaining, not missing any of that. They're going to prison though. And the people of the state that stop right in front of me, you want to turn your facilitating light activity and turn your hazards on and cooperate in targeting, you're sharing in other words, demonstrating an entity that is conspiring murder together. Keep that same energy, because in federal court, there is no controversy about the fact that you are fully engaged in the criminal conspiracy to commit murder, i.e. gang stalking an American citizen, which is domestic terrorism in the United States. In other words, let me put that in layman's terms, you're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. You have good time stalking with the possible light, you're going to federal prison, you're going to be mentally examined. You're being deported. And you and the national security threat that any relatives that have any relation to terrorists like you're out of this country and you're not coming back. This is the prize that you win when you want to stalk openly with impossible light activity. You want to stalk as a population under a fake sun. You want to stalk with the gang stalker police department and the airports and the fire departments. Your prize is you're going to prison, though. And don't cry in court. Nobody cares about your gang stalking children that you presented as terrorists. Everybody's aware of that evidence as well. You're going to be referring to your children. Oh, your children. You mean the children that you were monitoring Erica Spencer's vagina with? Those children? The ones that you had stalking and impossible, monitoring and impossible, you had them pacing around, creating activity in furtherance of her murder, those children that you present in that chaotic, hectic, dangerous environment, threatening their lives as well, while you're engaging in terrorism in furtherance of murder of another person, those children, those are the ones that you're referring to? Those children? All right, the entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're already surrounded with the evidence that is speaking to their comprehensive demise in court, where this is absolutely going. And there is no effective witchcraft regarding the necessity of illusions when there are no illusions upon what is the body of what is tangible facts, evidence, proving that not only are you mentally ill, you are in fact stalking as a whole government. A government is stalking. Imagine that. That's proof. It's already proven. And you're still doing it. That's also relevant to how long you're going to prison. How long you're going to prison. And terrorists like that, terrorists that engage in targeting an American citizen who's in the process of enforcing their rights, you're that much of a predator of a terrorist? You're that much antagonistic to the laws in this country? That you'll engage in more targeting? That's your response? Okay, so you're talking about terrorists that have no business outside of a prison. That's what that's establishing. That you are subject to prison, and for the protection of the public, you don't get out of prison. You're not going to prison for 2 to 5. You're not going to be deported out of this country, and then after a certain amount of time, years, you can come back. You're not going to be deported out of this country and then your grandparents can come to the U.S. after you've been deported. No, you're going to be deported as a terrorist. So with regard to terrorists, those that are related to terrorists, those that have connections that can be verified with terrorists, you're not coming into this country either. You're not staying in this country either. You don't understand with regard to, clearly you don't understand, but this is very real terrorism that you're engaging in. And the evidence is also very real regarding how that is treated. Terrorists are not treated very nicely in the United States. Terrorists that masquerade as company names, like UPS, like Amazon Prime, like Delta Airlines, like OVITT Family Community Library, like the Ontario International Airport, like the Ontario Police Department, like Speaker Companies Incorporated, like Walmart. I can go on because my evidence is already supported. I can't go to a Walmart without the demon-possessed stalking me by helicopter, greeting me by flying over me by helicopter in multiple Walmarts throughout different counties in the specific environment. It's already on the record. While these baboons are stalking in helicopter, Mike LORENZ is going to prison. That's why I start those videos with that hard evidence, with that statement, because that's exactly what he wants. And that's what that mentally ill feces consumer is going to get. And it doesn't matter that you don't like how you're being described when you shouldn't have been stalking an American citizen in the first place. And when you continuously engage in stalking me by helicopters, it does not change you're going to prison. You are going to federal prison. You can be as triggered as you want. You're going to be in a federal cell. You're going to be an inmate. And everyone's going to know that as well. This is an entity that is not prepared to be treated as the enemies of this country that they are no longer able to secretly exist as. They hate the United States. They hate your rights. They hate your constitutional and human rights. They hate your identity as being made in the image of God. They hate your ability to enforce your rights against them as they target you. That's that mental illness combined with that criminal activity. That is the formula for those that do detonate bombs to kill mass amounts of people and kill innocent children. to engage in acts of violence, inexplicable violence, for no reason whatsoever. Not that there is a reason, but my point is that the demon-possessed, the mentally ill, they don't need a reason. They wake up and they feel like doing it. And it happens all the time. And the entities engaging in this while they're gang stalking me, I am not the first. I am the first to prove it. I'm the first to enforce my rights against it, to prosecute it. I am not the first. The government's been engaging in this for decades. And now you're looking at this lawless. This is what you should be outraged by, because the audacity of the government to still be doing it, and you're all looking at it. If you do not understand, this is not trying to press fear. You should be outraged. That's what you should be. You should be outraged that they are engaging in it. They're doing it openly right in front of your face. This is how much they hate this country. The notion of them obeying the law because the little guy is enforcing their rights, that says a lot about their true stance regarding this country and the law, and those who are in position that are supposed to highly esteem that, protect that. You should be outraged. That's what you're paying, and I don't know that you are getting that. But I'm going to give the message. I'm sharing the documentation because this is beyond, I far surpassed the prosecution already. I'm not dealing with healthy, normal functioning people. These are demons. These are spirits. They are mentally ill. They are delusional. They know that they have a court date in 2 months, and they wake up telling themselves that it's not going to happen. They're not dealing with the full set. Okay, that doesn't cause fear in me, because these demons are already defeated. It informs. Okay, it does not incite fear. It informs. The entities engaging in this conduct, and you should be outraged about what the government is doing to any American citizen. Anyone. The responses, that everything and more that I have already advocated for. Because terrorism is entirely un-American. Un-American. And for anybody, you should not even be subject to it, but for you to be subject to it for one more day after you begin documentation, the government doesn't stand down. So the government has proven to you, remember, 8,000 plus videos and counting, because I still have more. I still have more from 2022. I'm not complete until I get to July of 2022. And I'm documenting ongoing terrorism on a daily basis. I never run out of material. You should be outraged by this. Okay? It's not a TV show. It's not. This is the reality of what has already happened to other people who are dead. They did not make it. They didn't maintain a body of evidence. They very likely had a breakdown, and then they were falsely depicted as being mentally ill. They're not mentally ill. They've been targeted. They've been targeted. Human beings are not designed to withstand a program of psychological torture. And the average mind, the average human being cannot withstand that. Not only cannot withstand it, but you're talking about maintain some organized body of evidence where you even have to define what is the offenses because it's demonic, because that's how demented they are. No, the average person is not doing that. They can't do that. And that does not make them weak. And it certainly has nothing to do with mental illness that they bear at all. These are demons. And they target to kill. They target to steal. They target to get away with whatever it is that they've already committed. They target for fun. They target to be sexually gratified. They're demons. They're dead. They're terrorists. They are enemies of this country. Entirely un-American. Now, what you should be questioning is why would levels of the city government and state and county openly engage in what it is that the city of Ontario has, what it is that the city of Los Angeles has, what it is that the city of Fontana has, what it is that the city of San Bernardino has, the city of San Diego has, the city of Costa Mesa has, the city of Pomona has. Why would they openly? Remember, they're not just engaged in targeting me. They kept my evidence under surveillance. You need to be able to take a big picture. Don't get lost in the trees. Take a big picture assessment of what I've done, what the entity has done to me, and what I documented, rather. Okay? What it is that I have provided for you to take a big picture assessment of. They're all engaging in this. They all presuppose that they were going to get away with it. That's why. It tells you about their attitude while they engaged in targeting an American citizen who kept documentation about it, that they kept under surveillance. That's what they're doing in Ontario. You're following me from the OVITT Family Community Library area to the Ontario Town Square, flying over the top of my head, while I'm publishing evidence, capturing evidence on my device, which is a very heavily documented pattern of you targeting me, engaging what is subjecting me to a public nuisance, which is even more diabolical and targeted than that, because the entity's doing it in a specific environment. The entity's doing it as a prolonged documented pattern. Okay, the Ontario Police is only different insofar as I have them stalking me so heavily that this is literally the evidence to prosecute them for traditional stalking in helicopter. In addition to what is prosecuting them for domestic terrorism, gang stalking me, which is the hallmark identifier, is stalking in helicopter. Because the malice behind that is the entity presupposes you'll never be able to target. You're mentally ill if you claim that the police are targeting you and everybody's acting like they don't even know you. Nobody's stalking you. And they're in a helicopter. How do you know that they're stalking you? Because you're a paranoid schizophrenic. That's the entity system. Okay? It's entirely illogical. You can absolutely prosecute. My evidence is so wealthy of the Ontario Police targeting me, especially with helicopters and as an agency. I could prosecute traditionally with harassment with the helicopter conduct. But this is prosecution for domestic terrorism regarding an entity that is targeting in concert with the Ontario Police, the state, and furtherance of murdering me. That's what's relevant behind stalking me using helicopters, and you're going to prison for that, Mike Lorenz. So the entity's engaging in this, and they're doing so, and what you should be outraged is the entity necessarily assumed and was convinced, and it informed their decision-making. Every city, every county targeting me. How do you know? Because San Diego's keeping a fake sign over me at my hotel at Fairford Inn. Because Kern County, they're keeping a fake sign out of my driver's side window while they're stalking in helicopter. Because Costa Mesa, on Newport Boulevard, at the Costa Mesa Police Department, they're keeping the fake sun right over my sunroof while I'm on the roads and the highways. Keeping it over me while I'm on the 55 freeway, the 405 freeway. It's over my car, over my sunroof. No matter what freeway I get on, no matter how long, no matter what direction I drive. From the beginning until the end of the day. Keeping it over me at the entrance of the Best Western off of Newport Boulevard in Costa Mesa. That's how you know that that city is targeting, that that county is targeting. And they added in the helicopter activity. The more that I document it, the more aggressive and hostile they can. And that's analyzed by the stalking in the hell. You pull out the helicopters, you pull out your commercial planes. When I say this, you should be outraged. You should be outraged because I provided you a body of evidence speaking to what are enemies in this country that are sitting around targeting, and they are already in position working against this country, working against American citizens, targeting them. You should be outraged by that. You should be very disturbed by that. As opposed to making YouTube videos and accumulating subscribers and accumulating views and engaging in what is voyeurism. Voyeurism via social media, it's sick. Because if it happened to you, the last thing that you want is somebody making content, eating popcorn and enjoying your suffering. Only demons are doing that, by the way. That's demonic. That's an inhumane level of cruelty and insensitivity. It's not normal. It's not normal. All right, nobody's helping. Everybody's sitting around making content about it. The reason why I created my channel is not only to enforce my rights and put it on the internet, because it is an ongoing emergency for so long as an American citizen remains subject to the pattern of conduct, but so that people can understand what it is that you can do to enforce your rights. So it's a way to ask for help. Nobody is helping. They're sitting up watching. And it speaks volumes about what fills this country. Okay, but nonetheless, the entity I am speaking to, and I am exemplifying how you can enforce your rights, how you can make yourself known, how you can expose what you're subject to, how you can get out of a bubble that the demon possessed are keeping you in while they're monitoring you, trying to kill you, trying to silence you. Okay. Anyway, I just want to make sure that that's clear. That's all relevant. Those demons, these idiots literally are stalking by helicopter, and you're going to prison. That's exactly why that video starts with that opening statement. Mike Lorenz is going to prison. He's going to federal prison. And where am I standing? At the OVITT Family Community Library, where Mike Lorenz committed kidnapping as an entity, June 16, 2022. In 2025, this agency is repeatedly engaging in what is criminal summoning. A Casada stalking at the 12:13 p.m. fake sun at the OVITT Family Community Library. I'm documenting that agency gang stalking July 15, 2025. I'm standing right here at the OVITT Family Community Library, 7 o'clock in the morning. The fake sun is there. 5 hours later, daylight savings time, or not, but daylight savings time, the fake sun is still over the OVITT Family Community Library, where demons, homosexual predators like A Casada presuppose that you're not going to know that it's actually about my vagina while she's under a fake sun at this OVITT Family Community Library, where that agency is routinely stalking me by helicopters, routinely engaged in criminal summoning, where demons like T. Cho are going to prison. He's going to federal prison. There is no statute of limitations for gang stalking me as a police department. You're going to prison, Cho. The entities engage in this while these idiots are providing evidence against them. There's no imagining anything. They've already established the fact that they're stalking as an agency, and you're going to prison for that. You're not just losing your position. You definitely aren't going to write me a check. Your body is going into a cell. You're going to be an inmate. You're going to prison. There is no way there will be any negotiation. They are still stalking now, and that's what's informing what a federal judge is going to do as a matter of justice. They are still stalking. It's December 1st, 2025. All right. It is currently, like I stated, 11:14 p.m. It is 11:15.